I was really happy with the 500, which was Concrete Revolutionary Girl Lieutenant.
Yes. Okay, that one was
no one got it, and I was like, and people were like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "That was a good question."
That was a sicko one. I really did enjoy that. All right, folks, we have before us before and after everyone's got their wagers in. Let's get into it. When the Air King prevents Careless Monday from being an actual catastrophe, he begins to try to save Japan with 10 billion yen, which he does by purchasing billions of copies of a best-selling novel set in Salinas Valley, California, following the story of Adam Trask's family. Friends, you have 30 seconds. And this is where Hawk is going to put in hype music, Dragon Ball Z, Kamehamehas flying all over the place. I'm just trying to think, what else can I make really the entire script of the first episode of Violet Evergarden is now streaming down the screen. What else? Copyrighted music. That's going to get bleeped right here.
สวัสดีครับ
No, we still got 15 seconds here, Pop. What else was good? No, that's not funny.
อยากกลับไปนอนอ่ะ
Oh, it's the OP from
อยากกลับไปนอนจังเลย
It's gonna fit in a small TV in the bottom right now. That will definitely get us copyright struck. What else?
ไม่เอาตื่นแล้ว
Okay, I think that's our 30 seconds. I'm gonna give a
Like you.
Okay, perfect. Everyone has answered. All right, let's get into it. Okay, this is. Oh man, what a game! What a game! Anime Jeopardy always is. All right, friends, we have before and after for 100. So it's not just one thing; it's two things, which I hate to inform all of our contestants completely forgot, because Cool Vids answered East of Eden, which is correct in part, but forgot the second part.
I didn't forget. I just didn't know.
ตอนนี้เห็นปะ
Jap had no idea, and Assy also knew.
I thought they were both East of Eden.
No, because it's Eden of the East of Eden.
Oh, the anime is Eden of the East. God dang it!
Oh my lord!
I was like,
that's diabolical, bro. Oh my god.
Yeah, so what is Eden of the East of Eden was the correct answer. Unfortunately, none of our contestants got that right, which means it all comes down to wagers. Cool Vids had 1,000 and wagered everything, bringing them down to 0. Gap wagered 1,000, and so goes down to 0. And so it all comes down to did Assy wager everything or not? And the answer, my friends, is that Assy Fender, who I said was the favorite, is in
เล่น
fact
เกม
the
ก่อน
favorite,
เริ่
holding
ม
on with
ตอน
Rush,
ตีห้า
winning
อีก3 นาทีเริ่ม
game. Oh my god, who saw that coming?
Damn.
Can we do another one? Do you want an alternate?
What do you mean an alternate?
Is anything going to be better than that? Swamp candidates. Oh man, the producers are furious, chat. Well, that's a wrap for us. I'm gonna let our contestants...
be furious. They only have to give me $50, and that's it.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. Assy, as the winner, any predictions on what's gonna win Anime of the Year for the Our Anime Awards this year?
Oh God. I think for the public, I'd probably say Freerin. I think that it also could win the jury, but it's kind of hard to say.
I have an idea of what's going to win. I have an idea of what's going to win the jury. I don't know if my mouse is showing up on screen.
Oh,
I have an idea.
I mean, I am in Anime of the Year jury, so I do have.
Oh, okay. Not fair.
A little bit of privileged information there.
All right.
I think it's safe to say an anime will win Anime of the Year.
Ooh, I like that, Cool Vids. And on that excellent note, let's wrap this up. Thank you to our 3 wonderful contestants. Assy, congratulations on winning.
Thank you.
You were in fact the favorite, not only in our hearts, but in actuality. And we'll catch you all later this stream, because I'm in one of these categories. Don't ask me which one. You'll have to watch to find out. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Nice to meet you in one of these categories. Don't ask me which one. You'll have to find out. I'm X-Bender.
Oh my God, there's no way you cracked that joke.
久美子はどの曲がいいと思ってる？어떤 인사가 괜찮을까? 천번쯤 상상해봤어. 근데 오늘도 천번하고 한 번 더 고민 중. 막상 네 앞에서 네 꽁꽁 얼어버렸다. 숨겨왔던 나의 맘 절반을 반도 두지를 못했어. 아직은 준비가 안 됐다고요. 소용돌이쳐 어지럽다고. 쏟아지는 맘을 멈출 수가 없을까. 너의 작은 인사 한마디에 요란히 져서 네 맘의 비밀번호를 눌러 열고 싶지만 너를 고민
ชื่อคนโหวตปะเพราะว่ามันกรรมการน่าจะมีเยอะกว่านี้เนี่ยแต่หรือว่าชื่อกรรมการวะสักอย่างละมั้งถ้าผิดอะไรก็ขอโทษด้วยครับ
こんにちは
あ
皆さん。
เป็นเกียรติมาก
お元気ですか？ウルソンです。実は最近ちょっと日本語を勉強してます。でももう下手です。大変ですよね。でも僕とみんなで頑張ります。Okay, that's enough weeb overload. I hope everyone is doing okay. 2024 marks the 9th year of doing the awards, and it's a miracle I find something new to say each time the live stream opens. On the other hand, I'm sure Pock is muttering under his breath, Wilson, you're not supposed to say anything new, just explain how they work. Well, Pock, explain I will, but in honor of Wicked premiering earlier this year and November later, perhaps I'll do so, I don't know, musically. Willkommen, yokoso, welcome. Tomodachi, konnichiwa, tanin. Hajimemashite, yasunde kudasai. Willkommen, yokoso, welcome to anime, a anime, our anime. The R Anime Awards has a unique structure where it is split in two. On one side, we have Glinda, the vote that's popular. They know about popular. Polls are posted to the sub, and almost 12 million users first vote on nominations, and then ultimately what they think are the best anime in a variety of categories, like best slice of life, best animation, and of course, anime.
เฮ้ยเดี๋ยวนะ ลืมถามเรื่อง
On the
อั
other
นนี้ก่อน
side, we have the lovable, if not nerdy, alphabets.
ผมเอาคุณมาอยู่ในไลฟ์ ด้วยนะ
After an
ได้หรือเปล่า
entrance exam, and then
ก็ว่า
converse with one another at Shiz, I mean a Discord server. At first, their green exterior may seem cold
ก็ลืม
and
ถามไง
intimidating,
ว่า
but
ได้
you
หรือเปล่า
soon realize that their power is unlimited. Wait, that refers to the amount of anime they have to watch.
อืม
Anyway, they're
ก็คือ
invited
ได้
well
ใช่ไหม
before public nominations and build their own
ขอบคุณ
list
ครั
that
บ
gets mashed together and becomes a final nomination list and gets voted on later. Their work is far from done after building out the nominations, however. In fact,
ก็
it's
ผมก็
well
ต้อง
in making them
เปล่าผมก็ต้องเอา Discord ออก แล้วก็อยู่คุยต่อแค่นั้นเอง
Unlike other awards where the judges' children might be the ones making the decisions,
อ้าว
or where influencers vote
ใน
for
ไลฟ์
the
ก็คง
only
จะต้อง
show
มี
of
คน
which
เดียว
they've seen. We're
แต่ว่า
defying gravity by actually watching every show.
แบบนั้นคงไม่เป็นไรเหมือนกัน
You can't bring us down. This structure is our main selling point, resulting in two distinct awards that both acknowledge what captured the anime community's attention at large, while also offering a ranking that may appeal to flying monkeys, talking goats, and, of course, die-hard anime fans. But wait, there's more. After all, you have to see the Wilson once you prove your worth. And then you see the Wilson, what you've
มัน
waited
ดีมาก
for
เลยว่ะ
since birth. And with all his Wilson wisdom... Oh, okay, I'll stop. But we're at this step, the live stream. We'll talk about our picks, perplex our guests, show some skits, and what matters most of all, have some fun. I think each year we have some pretty interesting results, so stay tuned. After all, whether you're Glinda or Alphaba, public or jury, who can say if you've been changed for the better? But because we knew you, we have been changed for good. Enjoy the show. Bang! Pow! Action makes up everything in the world, and that goes double for anime. Here are all the shows to get your blood pumping. Whether that's cool powers or supernatural beings, these are the nominees that put the action in lights, camera, action. Here are your nominees for Best Action of 2024.
วะ เฮ้ย ลอง ไม่ได้เลือกว่ะ แต่ก็ดี คิงดอม5 เฮ้ยเคนนิโคแมนอ้าวโอ้ย เต็มเกมไหมเดี๋ยวต้องทุกตอนนะเฮ้ย อันอะไรอลักนะอ้าว
And your winner for the action category, a consensus from both the jury and the public.
ให้นายน้อยอะอ้าว
Now, Dawn to Dawn,
Này,
I think it's
đần,
quite
đần.
unique as an action series, wouldn't you say,
Ồ.
Jack?
It's
Ừ.
definitely that's a word to describe it.
ให้ดันหมดเหรอ
Yeah, that is one of the words you could use. It's
In a good way, right? In a good way?
yeah, the good
Đấy,
and the bad.
solo leveling ที่ 2
Like bubbles, I guess is that's the biggest thing. It's it's a really fun mix of action,
Ui.
comedy, and romance that I think is
ผม-
really unique.
ผม
in
ว่า
the
มันก็
shonen
ก็ได้
sphere that
ครับ
it's in, and I'm glad it won. It's
เพราะผมก็ชอบ
the animation
แต่ว่า
art
ถ้า
style is, like,
ถ้าเทียบ
definitely far above
ถ้าเทียบกับ
most of what's coming
นายน้อยมันดู
out, so.
นายน้อยมันดูมีอะไรมากกว่ามั้งทั้ง
I mean,
Thằng
like,
Lương.
from the first episode, right? When it like centers
อืม
on
แค่แนว
Momo, and then she's doing that kind of like
ถ้าเทียบกับ
still
แนว
lean
แอคชั่น
walk.
หรอ
That's so characteristic of Science Saru, right? Of this kind of really fluid,
แต่โซโล่นี่ไปอยู่ที่5ที่ 10
like
อะ
kind of
ของกรรมการ
almost unnatural in a sense
ก็
animation. I don't
ที่ว่า
really
ก็
know
เห
how
มาะ
to
สม
describe
อะ
it. It kind of reminds me of, they also did not Lou Over the Wall.
Blue over the wall. Yes, that is the
ส่วน
one.
คินิวแคนก็
There's
ก็
that
เข้า
one
ใจได้
scene
มั้ง
where
ที่มันจะ
they
อยู่
go
ตรงนี้
to like a 5-minute dance breakdown.
Yes. Like the
I see
best
a lot of
scene in the
elements.
movie, for sure.
Yeah, it's so good.
No, yeah. Science Saru has such a fun style, and
Mhm.
Yuasa isn't with the studio anymore, but I still think his eclectic energy is within that. So, yeah, seeing them take on such a big
แปลไม่ออกอ่ะ
franchise, like this potential big shonen show, was really exciting. I think, especially for the community, because we see so many
เดี๋ยวรออ่าน
shonen
อ่านอะไรวะ
anime, I guess, fall into the hands
มัน
of
จะมี
big
ช่วงที่แบบ
studios, like, you know,
เขาพิมพ์ข้อ
toy
ความเนี่ย
animation and stuff
อืม
like that.
เดี๋ยวแปลช่วงนั้นแล้วกัน
So it's fun to see this unique take on a pretty popular manga.
ช่วงนี้ก็
I will say it was nice
ใจใจ
to
แปล
not
เอา
see that cat anymore. Go away, cat. Russix, was Dandadan pretty much like far and away the winner, or was there a lot of contention? Did you have to fight for it?
I would say it was generally a jury favorite. There were a couple of people who had their own issues with it during the process. Like anyone who's seen the first and last episode probably knows what some people might have an issue with. But the reality is, like, the action and the animation was just too much to like really ignore. It was like balls to the walls from the beginning. And episode 7 was probably one of the best episodes of the year for a lot of people. So it was just hands down the easiest slam dunk pick for number 1 I've ever seen.
Yeah, I could definitely see the controversy there. I know there was a lot of stuff going on whenever it was coming out. But I guess besides that, yeah, I could definitely see that. What I like about this list here is the sheer difference solo leveling was placed between the jury and the public. Solo leveling's last for the jury, and then for the public it was like runner up for Dotadon.
I mean, you're a solo leveling lover, right? Like you're the biggest fan.
I'm a watcher. I watched it all. I could see why the jury put it so low because it's isekai.
Solo leveling.
But, sometimes you need the slop in your life, and I can see why
Sometimes you need the slop. You're craving the slop.
For the slop that it is, it's pretty delicious, I would say.
Well, can you describe exactly what makes it so delicious? Like, like Steelman as much as you can. Why would one watch solo leveling?
ฝั่ง
I watched
สีเหลือง
this
คือกรรม
entire
การ
show, I told you guys before, but I was having the flu, and like I had the stomach flu. Everything was out of me. I had zero power. But then the dude from the solo leveling, who I don't remember the name of, is just gaining power every single episode. And it's this like edgy power fantasy of this zero to hero guy with like really good animation that I guess I was surprised about because you
มันน่าจะไม่มีคนเลือกอะไรปะ
Caliber
ถ้าแบบ
have, like,
มันต่างกันขนาดนี้
body animation with
ถ้า
a
ฝั่ง
lot
กรรม
of
การ
bad
ไม่รู้
CGI,
ดิ
but that's
เพราะมันถึงขนาดที่แบบ
that's
เลือก
not
คินนิคุแมน
for the most part,
มากกว่า
it's
โซโล่เลเวลลิ่ง
there. So it's
มัน
if you want an edgy isekai slop fest, then yeah, check out solo leveling, I guess.
I mean, I think that's a ringing endorsement. How much did the isekai slop play into it, Rusix? Its last place.
I would say a lot. Is like I will say it's like I'm a resident isekai slop enjoyer myself. It's like haven't been involved in adventure every year I've been with the awards, but it also comes down to it's like similar to other years when other popular action shows have not done well with juries. Like when you take all the action, you start looking at the rest of the shows. Like what else is there really? It's like he did some really cool action stuff, and then you're like, all right, there's nothing else to talk about. He beat up the bad guy.
He beat up the bad guy. Has
like,
zero personality outside of that.
Yeah, it's like because it's like a most overpowered isekai style shows, even though it's not actually an isekai itself. It's just like the hook happens in the first couple episodes, but from there you can more or less kind of know the story. It doesn't matter how much you enjoy its particular style of being overpowered.
Yeah, no, you got it on the money there.
The kind of through line that I've seen is like how different these shows are from each other and just exactly what their positives are. Whether you have like the over-the-top ridiculousness of Kinnikuman or you have the kind of emotional catharsis of this long journey with Bleach. Honestly, I kind of see it all within Dandadan, which is kind of why I think it resonated with so many people, because it's so many things at once, right? It's a great action show. It's a great horror show. I mean, you so rarely see horror shows. You get the comedy aspect, you get the romance aspect. I think it delivers in giving you a little bit of everything, which ultimately is why it won, I think, right?
For sure.
ดันละดัน
No, I definitely
มี
agree.
ความโรแมนติก
But that's all the time we have. Thanks for coming on, and I hope you all have a good day.
ไม่แปลเนี่ยโอ้ขอบคุณ
I can think of no better ode to adventure
ขอบคุณ
than
มาก
any of
ที่
these
แปลให้
series. Doesn't it make you just want to go Pinkusu no sake o toroke ni yuku yo umikaze
ร้องเพล
kimikaze
งแล้ว
nami makase shio no mukou de yui mo sawagu sora ni wa wakaku tori no uta yo ho ho yo ho ho yo ho ho yo ho ho. Here are your nominees for Best Adventure of 2024.
本当に実践は重要だ。少なくとも大コウモリを犬の代用にしてはいけない理由がまさかこれほど
ตีเรน อืมเอ้ยฝั่งกรรมการเนี่ย
よかった
น่าจะปีที่แล้วยังโอ้กรรมการไม่อยากโหวตอะ
ナミさんあなたは私の希望です
อ๋อใครจะรู้วะเฮ้ยใครโหวตไม่รู้อะแต่กรรมการน่าจะโหวตนะพีเขียวเนี่ย
よしあお前も早く
อืมพีเขียวมันมา2 ภาคเลยเหรอ กี่ตอนเนี่ย
And our jury and public winner for Best Adventure Anime is
โอ้
Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
ไม่ว่าจะมาแปลกเลย
I mean, it's got adventure in the name, right?
Like
Like
what?
Journey's right there. I don't know what else could have won.
สกายพีเขียว
Just goes to it by default, I guess.
Yeah, little did you know the R Anime Awards. You just have to say the thing, and then that's how you win. But what are your
ที่
what are
4
your thoughts on Frieren Ember?
Yeah, this was definitely one of
คุณรู้
my
ว่าแสนแลนน้อย
favorites from last year. Just I've been following the manga for a while, and this is possibly the best
โอ
possible
เค
adaptation
กรรม
you
การ
could
ไม่
have
ชอบ
gotten out
มู
of
ชิ
it.
กุเหมือน
Just
เดิม
an incredibly beautiful from just about every angle, and it really sort of takes that mindset of adventure to heart in this sort of post hero beats the demon lord setting that really allows these characters to explore a world that we don't normally see in a lot of anime. This sort of what happens after the big climax.
And kind of like the way that they go about it is using the excuse of like following a character like Frieren who has such a long life and different approach to what life is, even, you know, and what the like ramifications of having such a long life affects how you live that life.
Yeah,
พอแล้ว
I'm
พอ
definitely
พูด
a
ถึง
huge
ที่ 2 บ้าง
sucker for the like reframing mundanity into ways that make you appreciate them a lot more, even in like a very like hyper fantasy kind of setting like this.
But even beyond the premise, Frieren has just so much going for it.
นี่ยัง
just in
ไม่ดู
general,
เลย
right?
เนี่ย
I mean, you've got the tremendous animation, you've got the real actual sense of adventure. I mean, they're like, you know, sometimes adventure series, it's like technically adventure, or, you know, in the past this category used to be called adventure fantasy, where, you know, technically it's adventure, but they're just kind of in a different setting. It's not really like a journey. But in Frieren, you know, you very clearly moving point to point, meeting new people along the way, coming and going. I think it really does preserve that kind of raw sense of adventure that we seek to celebrate in this category.
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially just like it actually takes place over like so much longer a time frame than you get with a lot of other adventure anime. Like with a lot of other stuff, it's normally like a couple months to a year at most. But this one, like even after like Fern's like growing up, it still takes like a long time for them to do stuff, and it really allows you to appreciate just how much time these characters are spending together and how much of the world they are getting to explore in like a more prolonged period of time.
Now, Mira, I see that the jury and the public both have the same top 2. It's Frieren and then Dunmeshi, which obviously is amazing as well. Did Frieren barely just beat out Dunmeshi, or was it pretty close? Like, is there a different alternate universe where Dunmeshi wins this?
That is an excellent question, and I definitely
มันอยู่ที่
see that Dungeon Meshi could have won the jury vote,
ตรงจดหมาย
the public vote as well, though in some cases I
มันอยู่
doubt
ที่
that.
เท่าไหร่วะ
Though I would say also in terms of the jury that Fan Letter was a
มัน
very
ดูให้
strong
ที่ 6
contender for a winner of the jury.
Why is that?
Fan Letter was
โอ้มันอยู่ที่ 3
one
เลย
of
เหร
the
อ
most impressive shows from a thematic sense, I think. Also, we found a lot of the animation very impressive, and of it and the directing. And just fan letter is an incredibly dense experience, so to say. What they managed to pack in that short time frame is also very incredible.
Yeah, I mean, now that you think about it, fan letter is just like this one episode, and it's being compared to
เดี๋ยว
and
ต้องดูก่อน
standing
นะ
up
ใครเอา
against
เข้ามาวะ
these I mean, Free Run is like 28 or something, right? So that's pretty impressive in its own right. Now, Ember, I heard that you maybe just be a fan of One Piece. Is that correct?
ไอคนที่เอามาเนี่ยมันก็คือฝั่งกรรมการนะ
Mostly the manga. I
Ah.
haven't really watched a lot of the animes, but yeah, this was
ไอฮิวเลอร์เลย
definitely like a nice
ถ้ามึงให้
little
ที่ไหน
treat
มึงให้ที่
for like hardcore fans of the series and also just people
9 เอา
who
เข้ามา
really
ทำไม
enjoy the idea of One Piece in general. It's just got so aside from just like the little fan service nods here and there, it really this is the One Piece equivalent of like some of the more smaller Pokemon spin-offs we've gotten in recent years, like Twilight Lings, where it's like, well, let's take a look at just this little pocket of this fantastic world that we have to explore and just look at like a completely different set of characters and how they live in this world.
Another thing about fan letter is that it even works as sort of not a one for people who are One Piece fan because it really nails the fan experience, even if you of just fans in general, of how media or other heroes can affect us, even if we aren't specifically fans of those people in particular.
Yeah, it's almost got this like meta element to it, right? It's focus on these supporting characters who are fans of the main characters, but then the person watching fan letter is also a fan, and it becomes this kind of like tiered experience. But I found that kind of really resonant. Well, you heard it here, guys. Whatever brand of adventure you're into, it's recognized and represented here. But thank you guys so much for stopping by and having a talk with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
ไม่พูด
People gravitate to anime for all sorts of reasons, but at the end of the day, we just want to be entertained.
อืม
And what better way than with a big hearty
yeah.
from the belly guffaw? This category is
ไม่ค่อย
dedicated
มี
to the shows that tickle our fancies literally. Here are your nominees for Best Comedy of 2024.
シャークカマキリからの平凡な少女の前に現れ変身カズマが死ぬ
อ่ะ
なんだこれは
น่าจะเรื่องเดียว ไปที่ 10 เลย กระแสหายเลย โค้ดไว้
未来予知能力を持つ
อืม อันนี้ก็
どちゃっこなんだがひかりちゃんのママあなたの配信見てど
ไม่มี
And your jury winner is "Tis Time for Torture," Princess.
โอเค
And your public winner is Konosuba Season
โอเค
3.
Joe, do you have a favorite Konosuba character?
Favorite Konosuba?
No.
Favorite Konosuba character?
มัด มัดที่
I like Megumi. I like Megumi a lot.
Megumin is pretty great. I like her. I mean, for someone who's basically just like a one-trick pony, I think in comedy, one-trick ponies, like as long as you're able to adapt and kind of switch up their one trick, it works really well. And I mean, Konosuba is like, it's like a whole bunch of stereotypes, but somehow they keep it fresh every season, right?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the dynamic is super funny, considering she's stacked all of her points into an explosion spell that has such a massive cooldown, especially considering that like min-maxing is such a classic element of video games, and here the reality just hits it as a punchline so consistently.
When it was starting, I really appreciated the Megumin's chemistry with, well, especially Kazuma, where she always behaved like they were best buddies when they were going to explode stuff. But I also like the general shtick of her being like this incredibly smug and capable wizard that is just a huge loser, essentially. Like, it always makes for good punchlines where you could say everything blows up in her face. But yeah, I really appreciate that.
The thing is, Konosuba Season 3 is kind of more focused on darkness as a character, is it not?
Yeah, she's not usually a popular choice, including within our jury. We were initially a bit cynical of Konosuba because it was like, oh, it's good, but like it's not Season 2 and Season 1 that we thought were better, but compared to the rest of the shows that we had, it was still a pretty strong entry.
Now, what makes
ผมเลือก
Princess
Konosuba
kind
ไป
of
ครับ
stand out amongst the crowd here? Can you exactly explain what the premise of the show is?
So, it's a fantasy skit comedy about princess that get captured by the Demon Kingdom, and the whole shtick is that she gets quote-unquote tortured to get extract information. But these tortures are just like silliest things possible. Like they will say like, oh, we will eat this delicious food and make you watch, and oh, we are going to play video games today, and if you lose, you have to give us information. And initially, it sounds like something that would get old. Like they just keep coming with new torture things, and she just confesses. But it always found a way to stay fresh all the way through.
Now, Joe, I had something I actually really wanted to talk to you about in this segment particularly. Do you have a favorite VTuber?
Favorite VTuber?
Yeah. You watch VTubers at all?
Not really.
The reason I wanted to bring it up is because the second place in the jury here is a show called VTuber Legend. And it's about this VTuber. The premise is that she is doing a stream one day. She has a very like prim and proper personality. And then one day she accidentally leaves the stream running and she lets loose with some strong zero, with some really alcoholic drinks. And it's revealed that she has this like kind of secret, more body personality behind the scenes, right? And she goes viral and et cetera, et cetera. What made me kind of interested in it is that after that initial premise, it kind of just becomes her doing the VTuber thing. I'm wondering what you think about this kind of line between what is essentially like a simulacrum of a VTubing experience in show form.
Yeah, I think there's something kind of really interesting about that, especially if it's in anime form, because it kind of... Stevie Swad actually came out with a really interesting article about the idea of embodied versus character acting. An embodied actor is somebody who tries to... regards to some true great verisimilitude of something, and then there's character acting, right? Character acting being the you act in regards to a set of conventions, a set of genre conventions. And anime is actually really fascinating because anime, by its core form, very focused
ไม่น่า
on
มีอย่างอื่น
character
แล้ว
acting, because like
ที่ให้ท
the whole conceit is that anime
ำก็ต้อง
characters don't actually act
ก็ต้องลองเริ่มจากไอ้นี่ก่อน
these people, they act like a specific rendered form
มันรู้สึกว่าไม่รู้ว่าถ้าแบบไลฟ์อย่างอื่นอ่ะมันจะแบบคุยได้นานขนาดไหน ก็เลยคิดว่าเริ่มจากไอ้นี่ที่มันยาวๆน่าจะดีกว่าใช่
to act as a facsimile of all of these things. And so there's a sort of double layering. I think that you use the term simulacrum. I think that's a good way to describe that. There's a double layering of both of these elements with regards to each other.
How could you not have a favorite? Okay, from now on, your favorite
ไม่ได้ดูครับ
if anyone asks is Sakura Miko.
ใช่
That's your
okay, that's
you've been assigned one. But you know, I think that's close to all the time we have. I want to thank y'all for speaking with me. It's been a fun time. It's been very comedic. So thank you, Joe. And one last final thing, I just want to say we have been blessed and ever so happy to receive an acknowledgement from the team from Konosuba Season 3. So here's a little message from the production team at Drive Company Limited. From the production team at Drive Company Limited.
อะไร
Konosuba Season 3. Thank you for awarding us the Art Anime Comedy Award for Konosuba 3. It is a huge honor that fans all over the world have enjoyed the show and to be praised for it in this way. Our team worked diligently on the finest details of the production to properly bring out the charm of the
ปกติมันจะมีแบบ
the tempo of the
ส่งไป
story,
ให้ทีมงานใช่ปะ ทีมงานก็คอมเมนต์กลับมา
Seeing how our hard work has been received by everyone watching is the greatest source of motivation. We would like to use this opportunity to thank all of you who supported the show. We will continue to earnestly work on our productions. Once again, thank you deeply for this honor.
อ๋อ
I
จาก
think I can speak for all of us here at the RMA Awards that the feeling is mutual.
Production Team Drive
Thank you very much for watching Tis Time for Torture, Princess. On behalf of the staff, I would like to thank you. Throughout the production, we continue to ask
ใช่
ourselves how we should best convey in
อ่า
anime form
ผมรู้สึกว่าความตลกมันก็ยังมีอยู่แต่ว่าเพิ่มความจริงจังเข้าไปแต่สุดท้ายมันก็ยังเป็นแนวคอมเมดี้ที่แบบดีต่อใจเรื่องหนึ่ง
makes us happier than hearing that you enjoyed it. Thank you. Yoko Kanamori, director for Tis Time for Torture, Princess.
ใช่เออ
I think drama holds a special part in our hearts.
5 นาทีเลย
because
เหรอ
At the end of the day, it's a reflection of
ฟังแค่แบบ
ourselves.
explosion อะไรแบบนั้น
While we'll most likely never be heroes whisked away to other worlds or
Red Dharma.
in charge of investigating murders, what we
มี
will
ลูก
inevitably
แบ็กมี
face are
มี
tough
สลัมยัง
decisions,
ด้วย
crossroads in life, competing priorities, and that pesky thing we call human connection. These are the series that we see ourselves most in.
เดี๋ยวบอกว่า
Here are your nominees for
จำไม่
Best
ได้ว่ะ
Drama of 2024.
生温かくて無力で
全てはこいつが元凶だから
Go back
しょうがないな1時間だけだよ
โอ้ look back
召し上がれ
หมี ดีกว่าภาคแรก แต่ที่เหลือเป็นไงไม่รู้นะทำไมเราจะอยู่แล้วดิ หมีนะ เว้นแต่ว่ามึงจะสวนนิดหน่อย ดราม่า
And the jury pick for drama
โอ้ไอ้เหี้ยบีส
in
ตา
the 2024
I know.
R Anime Awards Look Back. And the public winner, voted by you,
เฮ้ย
is
อ้าวไอ้
Ocean
เขีย
Oko Season 2.
I like the little dramatic flair there.
I've done these a few times.
Yeah. But I can't say that Look Back is in any bit surprising. I mean, if anything, it's surprising that it wasn't a consensus pick, even though it is number 2 over there on the public. But what do you think of these winners? What's your first impression?
I am
ให้อะไร
entirely
กว่า
surprised that Look Back
อ่า
won the jury award
บี
and
สตา
was
ไอ้เหี้ย
voted
บี
number
สตา
2.
มีใครดูบ้าง
Just the story alone is immensely wonderful in a sense of like, what if? Because like you said at the beginning, everyone knows drama in their life. And
คนดูแม่ง
we
ได้
all
ดู
have
หรือเปล่า
this
ยังไม่รู้เลย
sense,
เนี่ย
what if we could change something? What if we could prevent something from happening? And that resonates with everyone. And to also have like a little bit of the undercurrent
ตอน
of
ดู
the
ยังดูซับ AI อยู่เลย
Kyoto Animation arson incident as this kind of relates together. I think it really resonated both inside Japan and outside. So to have the jury pick it number 1 and have it
สลึมสลื
rank
อ
as high for the public voting, I'm not surprised at all. No offense to Oshinoko.
ลอง
Oshinoko
ข
is
อง
a very, very popular show. I'm not surprised that won for the public vote. But that also says just how
Oh.
good Look Back is.
เหี้ยเป็นอย่างนั้นได้ไงวะ
Well, here's my little pet theory, and you guys can confirm or deny this. Well,
อ้าว
in
อ่ะ
Oshinoko, very minor
ไหน
spoilers.
พูดถึง
There's
อะไร
this
อีก
kind of character
ฮิโน
arc
โกะ
where we're following this one character.
ดูไม่
He's
จบอ่ะ
not a very good actor.
ดู
He
จบไหม
kind of got where he is through like basically nepotism, right? But he undergoes this journey where he learns that if I can just do this one thing really, really well, that'll make me stand out, and that'll be the difference, right? And ultimately, he accomplishes his goal, right? I think Oshinoko is very similar in that respect, where sometimes it doesn't hit, sometimes it's kind of like very low floor, but the ceilings, like when the animation goes out of control, when all of the arcs are hitting exactly at the perfect tempo, it's magic. Now the thing is, if you compare it to Look Back, I think that entire thing starts at 100 and just stays there the entire time, so it's a little bit an unfair comparison, but I like to see you guys' thoughts on that. I mean, Stuck, what do you think the jury landed on that?
All right. Well, I mean, obviously, Oshinoko is sitting at 8th there for us, and overall, I think that a lot of the jurors did enjoy Oshinoko this year. Felt it was a strong season. In particular, we talked a lot about the Kana Akane stuff going on this season, and felt that was particularly strong. But outside of that, you brought up that one particular actor that had that character arc this season, and we had a bit of a mixed reaction on that. Felt it was a little bit sudden, but did overall appreciate the changes in his character. And then some of the other characters, Ruby was still fairly sidelined, underutilized. Memcho hardly shows up. Not that we were necessarily talking much about Memcho. And yeah, so there were a lot of elements that we were somewhat mixed on, and that's kind of why it ended up ranking lower for us overall. But it was still a solid season that I think most of the jurors at least enjoyed.
But is it any way better than Look Back? Could you see the reasoning?
If you ask me personally, I would not see any way that I would consider it better, but that's partially, I mean, my own bias as someone that very much loved to Look Back. It is genuinely one of my all-time favorite films. So
ชอบมาก
I was
ตอน
overjoyed
เครดิต
to
ขึ้น
have that victory, that first place
ชอบน้อยกว่า
in the category for Look Back.
But at the end of the day,
มันเหมือนกับ
the drama, right? And what oozes drama more than some hibike euphonia?
มันเล่าถึงความพยายามที่แบบการที่แบบเราทุ่มเทกับชมรมเนี่ยเราก็ควรที่จะได้ผลตอบแทนนั้นมาซึ่ง3 ปีที่มันอยู่เนี่ยมันตอบตรงนั้นได้ดีมาก
Season 3 is drama. Coming into it, I think I wanted to express to everyone, hey, this is going to be a different season than what you're used to with UFO, because season 1 was it had a lot of comedic elements to it.
รู้สึกว่าก็แค่ชอบกว่าเพราะว่าถ้าเทียบ2 เรื่องเนี่ยมันก็ดีกันทั้งคู่ใช่ไหมล่ะถ้าเราชอบที่สุดอ่ะมันยังไงมันก็ต้องแบบเรื่องที่มันปลูกเรื่องราวมามากกว่าอยู่แล้วอ่ะ
This is it. This is all of her chances left to go to nationals. Oh, and by the way, here we have a new character who is very, very talented playing the euphonium as well. So it just all adds up to one of the biggest, most dramatic moments in the euphonium franchise in episode 9.
Well, we said it before, but I'll say it again. Like, all of these look so gorgeous. Like, even if maybe drama's not your thing, it's worth it to watch these just for the pure experience. And also for the experience of listening to our wonderful guests. Thank you so much for coming by. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you for having me.
แต่ Look Back คือเรื่องที่ทำให้รู้สึกหายใจไม่ออกในโรงเป็นยังไงตอนมันแบบถือขวานอะไรสักอย่างจริงมันหายใจไม่ออกจริง
Romance is an eclectic mix of complicated emotions, of which include nervous joy, but also abject despair. And while it may be a headache dealing with them in real life, they sure are fun to watch on screen. This category goes out to all the anime characters just trying to feel a little less alone. Here are your nominees for Best Romance of 2024.
นั่นแหละไม่ค่อยมีอะไร ดีกว่าอนิเมะจีบสาวทั่วไป
情のやませ方なんて私はそんなこと言ってもどこ触ってるのまた待たせちゃった
มีใครดูบ้างทำไม10 ปีเพิ่งทำต่อปะช้าไปแล้ว
ごめんなさいよっしゃ
ได้ที่หนึ่งนี่ก็ร้องอ่านไปแบบ100 กว่าตอน
山田が好きだ
เอาเหรอ
猫が熱いです
頭に限らず全身が熱い
ดูแล้ว
じゃない
And
เรื่
the
องไหน
jury
วะ
winner is Kimi ni Toroke from Me to You season
ไม่
3.
อะ
And the public voted for The Dangers in My Heart Season 2.
So unfortunately, you know, romance is a genre I really like a lot, but I haven't been able to watch very many this year or in 2024. I've been hearing a lot of great stuff about
ได้ไง
Dangers in My Heart, though.
อ๋อโอเค
Would one of you please just give me a quick overview on like exact? I heard the beginning is kind of
โอ
like
เค
sketchy, right? Like
ตรงกัน
Joe
ไอ
is, like,
เรื่องนี้
actually
สาวน้อยเวทมนต์
It definitely takes a turn in the
ไม่
beginning
นะเพราะว่า
because
ตอน
at
ตอน
first
หนึ่งมันแบบ
you think
สั้น
it's
มาก
going to be this dark show because
อืม
clearly
ตอน
this
ตอน
boy
มันสั้นแล้ว ครึ่งหลัง
dislikes
อ่ะมันจะ
everything
ใช้
and everyone around him
พวกนักพากย์ทีมงานอ่ะมาคุยอ่ะ
then he kind of observes this beautiful girl
เพราะ
in
ว่า
his class and it just
มันเป็นผลงาน
completely
ที่แบบ
changes him. He goes from this very dark
เขียนไม่จบอะไรประมาณนั้น
persona to truly a boy in
เพราะว่า
love
เพราะว่า
and it's
เพราะว่า
pretty
คน
much
แต่ง
all
มันตาย
about
อะ
not only his growth
คนแต่งเขา
as
ตาย
a
ก่อน
person but how he starts to fall in love with this girl
ครบรอบอะไรสักอย่างมั้ง
An understatement. Like he's literally planning to murder her when he realizes that his obsession is not out of bloodlust. It is actually, wait a minute, I actually really like this girl, and he doesn't know the difference, which is concerning for sure.
แต่เนี่ย
In fact, when I first heard about the show and I read the description on Mal, I was like, ooh, this sounds interesting. And then I realized, like, oh, he's just a boy in love. That's kind of disappointing. But then the show really, it became the danger in my heart. That's what it became. I love the show.
So it's like cute aggression, but to the extreme. Huh? It's like when you see a baby, you want to pinch his cheeks, except he wanted to murder her.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
He's a middle school edgelord growing out of this face.
Yeah, and the first season is really good. Personally, I think the first season to me is better than the second season, but the second season is also really interesting because it turns more into less
เออ
romance,
เรา
more
เว้นได้
like
ดูปะ ไอ
really
ซีซั่น
digging
2 เรื่อง
into
เนี้ย
the psychology of our
เว้
main
นก็ไม่ได้ดู
character Ichikawa because it seems like he's just trying to figure out life. He's just trying to break out of his shell and become, you know, more involved in his class and become a better, more well-rounded person for Anna's sake.
It's definitely a coming of age story. You really see him mature a lot. He's still about as smooth as sandpaper, but he's honestly grown so much and it's extremely endearing.
It's
ชอบ
a beautiful show.
It really is.
Now, speaking about waiting for the long run, I mean, the first episode of Kimi no Todake aired in 2009. That was the year after I
คิด
graduated
นาน
high school.
ชอบเรื่องนี้แหละ
So
เออ
now
Danger
we
in My
have,
Heart
back in 2024, season 3 winning the jury side for best romance. Nick, you might explaining
คิด
exactly
ว่าถ้าความโรแม
what
น
this
ต์
is,
มันดี
you
กว่า
know, why it won out against Pokeyaba in the end.
Of course.
Mm.
Of course. First off, I understand why a lot of people would be unfamiliar due to the large time gap and Netflix batch releases. But
รู้สึกมัน
regarding the
มันได้
show
เปรียบกว่า
itself,
ไอ
I
เรื่อ
feel
ง
like the
อื่น
best
ๆเพราะ
way
มัน
to
เป็นซีซั่น
describe it would be earnesty. A lot of shoujo from that time, definitely, which includes Kimi ni Totege here, are very heavily the
ไอ้
internal
สาวนกเนี่ย
conflict
มันรู้สึก
focused. Like
พูด
these
ถึง
characters
เพื่อน
are
อะไรพวกนั้นน่ะ
getting in
แล้ว
their
ก็
own
แบบ
heads
ฉันอยู่
as
คนเดียว
more than
โดย
anything
ที่ไปแบบ
else.
ไม่มีคนอื่น
However, what
ไม่
makes
ได้
season 3 special is the rather equal
อืม
distribution of the three main couples and how all of their stories are loosely connected because they're friends, and it's like there's definitely the element of pushing your own worries aside because you're worried about them, and all of their struggles are influenced by the others, and
คิด
it
ว่าถ้า
just
พูด
kind
อะ
of
มัน
all wraps
น่าจะ
around
ไปแบ
together
บ
to create
slice of
this
life อะไรไหมวะ
one cohesive whole that feels
อืม
extremely genuine the entire way. There's virtually nothing here that feels overly generic or overly forced or anything like that. It
อืม
just seems like these people are struggling, but very much
อืม
in love. And I'm kind of struggling with words a bit here, but because it's really something you need to see to believe.
What do you feel about that, Otaku Cup?
I mean, I agree
Hmm.
with pretty much everything that he said. It really just is just a continuation of everything that the first two seasons built upon, and each season is like an evolution where you just see
ดูไปตอนเดียว
Sawako just becomes a little stronger and a little more confident as the time passes, and
เนี่ย
then you
กู
throw in, the
ได้ยิน
romance,
เสียงฮายามิน ทุก
she's
โทน
in
เสียง
a
ใน
couple,
1 ตอน
and then her friendship with INA and Chizu. So it just sucked that it took so long for us to get there. And I didn't hate the batch releases either because each episode kind of felt like a little mini movie in that format, and I didn't necessarily mind it. I thought it made for a kind of cool experience, especially for those of us that were fans and waiting for it to come. So I thought that it really paid off. It was a very good season 3 season for sure.
I want to thank you guys for coming out to speak with me, and I will move on with the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having
ยัง
us.
ไม่ได้ดูซีซั่น
Thank you for awarding Kimi ni Todoke 3rd season the Best Romance Award.
3 อ๋อ
It goes without saying that it has only been
โอ้
possible because of
Animation
the wonderful
Producer
original work. But I am very pleased that thanks to the
แล้ว
efforts
ทำไม
of
มันใหญ่
those
ขึ้นเรื่อย
who
ๆ วะ
have been involved with the series, it has reached so many people, and not only within Japan. Thank you so much, Maya Isobe, animation producer. The beauty of Slice of Life is the opportunity to explore a multitude of different worlds. It is the realization that each individual has their own unique story to
อืม
tell.
แต่
If only they had the chance. Whether you've always wanted to camp, fish, or become an idol, there's a little something for everyone.
มีอะไรอะ
Here are your
จำได้ว่า
nominees
มี
for
แบบ
Best Slice of Life
นัตสึเมะ
2023.
ซีซั่น 7 อะไรเงี้ย ไม่น่า
9番完了8番
เอ้ย เรื่องนี้ใช่ไหมการ์เดน อืม
おはよ
โอไฮโอ
うおはようりんちゃんも
เลิฟไลท์
ときわちゃんのバースデーケーキが
เรื่องนี้ว่ะมันต้องได้แล้วอะฟังกรรมการ อืม ลองดู ต้องลองสักภาคนะ ต่อจัง
And your winner for the jury and the public
ไม่ได้เหรอ
is season 3 of Yuru Camp. Triangle.
Dramatic pause.
ได้หมดเลย
Eurocamp Triangle Season 3 has a
เอ้า
little bit of a mix-up
ไอ้เหี้ย
because the studio changed to
แล้วมันเอา
keep it.
แล้วมันเอาให้นี่เข้ามาทำไมอะถ้ามึงจะให้ที่โหลอะ
Notice a difference when you first started watching?
Yes, definitely. When the change was made from C-Station to 8-bit, the first thing that I noticed was the increase in quality with backgrounds. I was stunned at times with how high quality the backgrounds look, how high quality the cinematography was. It took a step up this season, traveling closer to Mount Fuji, around the lakes,
เพราะมันคือ
bridges,
Reddit Anime
through
Award
the cherry blossoms. I think it did a lot right in the production.
ที่โหลนี่กูยังไม่รู้จักเลย
I definitely noticed it. I can't say I completely agree with all the shifts for the positive. While I do
หมาย
think
ถึ
the
งว่า
backgrounds
ภาค
look
มิกอะ
fantastic,
ไม่ได้ยิน
I think
ชื่อ
it
เล
led
ย
to some compositing issues where the characters didn't feel like they were residing in the scene the same way they did in previous seasons. And while I like this shift towards
ยังไม่ได้
more
ดูเลยครับ
touristic activities of spanning bridges or going really into trains or
ถ้ามันอยู่ตรงนี้
hiking
อะ
to explain
ที่
why
7 กับที่
the
8
character design might have shifted a bit between the seasons. I didn't feel like the same show to me, and I get that a lot of this was maybe to redirect it in line with the manga, but as someone who
โอ
was
โม
an
เละอะไร
anime
นะ
only fan for the
ยาซิ
first
เตอร์
couple
เนี่ยนะ
seasons, this
มัน
one kind
ภาคต่อ
of
ปะ
shook me a bit and
ใช่
wasn't
ภาค
quite
ต่อ
the same
มันเคยมีอนิเมะก่อน
flavor of laid back camp that I had grown to love, though I still think it's a very solid show across the board.
Oh, so what do you think should have won instead? Because it doesn't sound like you're very high on it.
Ooh. I mean, I was not surprised that this one, considering how strong it's placed across past years.
ยังไม่ได้ดู
I
เล
mean,
ยครับ
it's always been in the top entries across public, whether it be even the non-traditional
นัตสึ
sequels
เมะ
like
ครับ
Kaya Camp or the movie. So this was not a surprise,
ชอบ
but
ครับ
to see it win the jury as well was a
เพราะ
little
เป็นเรื่อง
unexpected. I
เพราะเป็น
thought,
เรื่องเดียวที่เป็น
Slice
สไล
of
ด์ออฟ
Life
ไลท์ใน
really
นี้
delivered a
แล้วก็
bunch
ดู
of very
อะไร
exciting
วะ
stuff this year.
2.5 มิติ
I think the two standouts for me have to be
ไอเรื่องนี้ก็ดู
Madogiwa
เอ
no
อ
Koto-chan, the movie
ดู
that
ไป
I
ไม่กี่ตอน
understand
เนี่ย
not a lot of folks
ก็ส
probably
นุก
have
ดี
seen
แต่ว่า
at
ไม่
this
ได้ดู
point.
ต่อ
I thought it was extremely effective in a lot of its storytelling mechanics.
อืม
And additionally, as someone who is not the biggest fan of Yuru
รู้
Yuri
สึก
and
รู้สึก
who
มั
has
น
not even
มัง
seen
งะมัน
seasons
เป็น
2
แบ
or
บ
3,
กระแสทุ
I
กตอน
really
ที่มา
dug the two kind of mini movies
มันเป็น
that
มัน
the
เป็น
Umurake series brought
มัง
up.
งะออกตอนนึงรู้สึกมันเป็นกระแสมากกว่าอนิเมะตอนนึ
Ichiya,
ง
what do you say to that?
Man.
Do you kind of defend the jury's pick of Eurocamp here?
Eurocamp this season, this year, exemplified what Slice of Life is about. So
Yeah.
with
นึกว่า
Toto-chan,
มันจะให้ไอ้นี่
I thought that the animation, the art style, cinematography was absolutely stunning, but I felt that the final third was rushed. The first two thirds offered a beautiful insight into Toto-chan's life in her new school and being brought to lift up her friends and be a valuable part of the school community, whereas the final third encompassed many more years of the war, including major character deaths and significant time skips throughout.
ขอบคุณ
Toto-chan would score a lot better among the jury if it was more spaced out. The pacing was a pretty common complaint, and that is the main thing I would say about that. So with
ร้อง
Omurake,
แทบตาย
one of the common
เออ
complaints
ไม่ได้ดู
was
อยู่แล้ว
that
ลงแถวบ้านไม่
it
เข้า
was more for people who had seen
ต้องไปดูอะ
Yuri and
ต้อง
had
ไป
a
ดูที่ไหน
better
ต้องไปดูที่
relationship
กรุงเท
with
พ
the characters. It did a lot right again. Omurake was positively received.
เสียใจว่ะ
It was
ทักไปถามดูอะ
fantastic character
น่าจะไม่
interaction
เข้า
and
นะคะ
looked really
โรง
nice,
เราเล็ก
but its dependence on Yuri and just all around not standing out among
ที่หยด2ประมาณ
incredibly stacked
เอ
slice
อ
of
ใช่
life category. Homurake was just really
ที่หยด
unfortunate
ประมาณ
this
แบบ
year to be
100 ล้าน
up
รอบ
against
เนี่ย
such incredible shows
คือ
like
คือมึงไม่ฉายเรื่องอื่นแล้วมึงฉายเรื่องนี้เรื่องเดียว
and Love Live Superstar.
All right, there you have it. Yeah, a good number of things to check out.
มีเรื่องอื่นบ้าง
Talking with me about these slice of life series.
Of course, it was my pleasure, and a lot more relaxed than talking about action or suspense.
That's how we like it around here. But on with the show.
素敵なタイトルだね。でしょ。
ชนะละ
一緒に吹く？え？いいの？
ต่อไปซัดเพน
じゃあ椅子を持ってきましょうかね。
Our next category consists of the utmost intrigue. The entries here within demand you put on your robe and wizard hat, your trench coat and magnifying glass, and probe their contents to your heart's content. It's the category that will transport you back to kindergarten, where you first learned who, what, where, when, and why. Whether the who is the butler or the where is Imperial China, this category will have you on the edge of your seat. Here are your nominees for... Okay, enough leaving you in suspense. Here are your nominees for Best Suspense of 2024.
僕に労力の無駄遣いをさせたことを後悔させてやる。モーリス
ยังไม่ได้ดูภาคใหม่
マジか
อ๋อไอเรื่องเฮียนี่เลือกมาแต่น่าจะได้อิน
演出キャメラ思い違いな怪人俺たちは守ってるだけだ
นี่ยังไม่ได้ดูเลย
償ってもらわないとダメだよ幼いさんこれ毒です
โอ้ไอเรื่องนี้อิทาโร่ไม่ได้ดูมันติด
意外と思ったわね丈夫なこ
อ๋อ
と
ฟิล์มอันนี้ได้ดู
壊
อ
れ
ยู่
たお人形はいらないの
อืมแต่ว่ามันจะไม่ใช่แบบเนื้อเรื่องเดียวกันทั้งเรื่องอะแบบตอนหนึ่งมันจะเปลี่ยน
Your winner for the best jury
อ๋อเฮีย
and
ที่โหล
audience
เลย
nominee
Is the Apothecary Diaries.
Ooh. I can't say that this is necessarily a very surprising winner. Wouldn't you agree?
It was a very popular show. It would more surprise me that it came out of the jury as opposed to the actual popular vote. But
What do you think the jury would lean more towards, though, if not this?
I actually thought they might
โหด
lean
ไม่
more
ถามชื่อ
toward
เลย
Yadagarasu. That kind of seemed more like a jury
อะไรนะ
pick to me.
โอชิมิน
Obviously, I like Dead Demons Dead
คน
Destruction, but
Yeah, that was both of
โอ้
our anime of the year.
ถ้าพูดถึงมังงะเนี่ยแต่อนิเมะไม่รู้ว่ะ ในไทย
Mononoke being second though is kind of surprise to me in the jury pick.
I don't know. I feel like it's very jury core. Did y'all watch the Mononoke movie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And was it not fabulous? Like, does it not deserve?
รู้แค่แบบ
I mean, if anything,
เข้าคันชิโร่
Apothecary
โอ้
Diaries
หยี
beating
เลย
out both Mononoke and DDD is kind of the.
แต่มันให้ที่3เลยเหรอวะ
It was more like Mononoke is just not as talked about as like a Dedede or Apothecary. That kind of surprised me. They ended up in number 2 here. As far as like the actual merit of it, like it is a great movie.
It really does a good job at taking what the original TV show did like well over a decade ago at this point and like transposing that into a much more modern context animation wise because like it's so well. It uses like CG so well. It's just a gorgeous anime to look at. And I can't believe they're doing 2 more. It's kind of insane.
2 more. I knew about the next one, obviously, but I didn't realize it was a trilogy. Man, I'm super excited.
I think the funny thing
แต่
about
เด
this
เดมัน
category to us is just
ต่างชาติมันชอบ
suspense
เปล่าวะ
as like a term. It's like okay, so how are we
ใช่
judging
ถ้าพูดถึงความดัง
because
มันก็
like
ดัง
we
แหละ
have obviously have
แต่
a
อนิเมะ
very
มันดีเหรอ
wide spectrum of like what is quote unquote suspense, right? So Apothecary Diaries
ไม่ได้ดู
is kind of more in line with a kind of mystery, almost like a
ให้โจชิมิน
Detective Conan or
ถ้าส่วนตัวมันถ้า
Sherlock
เป็นความ
Holmes
แบบ
kind
ซั
of
ดเพน
story with a
ยังไง
lot
โจ
of
ชิมินมันก็
powers
น่าจะได้
where it kind of sets up a mystery to be solved. You kind of are given some of the tools for which to kind of figure it out for yourself, and then it gives you its own solution. But then you get like Go-Go Loser Ranger, which is less so a mystery in that regard and more so just kind of a thriller, right? Like it's more,
A lot of like infiltration and subterfuge.
yeah, like how is he going to navigate this sort of system and beat these characters that are larger in life and much stronger than he is? So you kind of have a full spectrum of like what is quote unquote suspense. Whereas like some like Shoshimen, there's nothing very suspenseful about Shoshimen. Like it's a mystery show. I'm thinking like the majority, like it's just like, oh, how did he make hot cocoa with only 3
That's so
cups and no?
suspenseful.
Is that really suspenseful?
Well, it's a
เออ
matter of
แล้วทำไมไม่ให้
It has hot sauce in it. Who knows?
ทำไมอยู่แค่นี้อ่ะ
It was able to take like these very mundane things, like it's similar to a Hyoka, obviously. It's able to take them and make them into something that is actually very like suspenseful. It's like, yeah, how did they make that hot chocolate? What do they do?
Well, I
and then
think
you
that's
get to the
subjective.
answer.
Grin, what? So they have a point here. Was it kind of hard deciding out of which one of these was the best, considering they are kind of different, or was Apothecary Diaries kind of like far and away the winner for you guys?
Yeah, I think specifically Mononoke and DDD also had a couple people like really supporting it like at the top. But I think like the reason why Apothecary like ended up winning is because like first of all, there's a lot of people like they really liked it, and secondly, like the other people like who are more split on what they would put at number 1, they still put it at number 2. I think also a lot of the other shows in the top, they also are like more contentious as compared to Apothecary. Like for example, DDD, which I think was fairly close to winning. That's like obviously like the episode 0 and episode 17 like ending, which kind of like go against it makes the series like worse in a lot of people's opinions.
อ๋อ
So you're
ประมาณ
saying
15
it's
ป่ะ
almost like a
จำไม่ได้
Rotten Tomatoes thing, where you know like Rotten Tomatoes the score is actually like the number
ไม่
of
แน่ใจ
people
เดี๋ยว
who rated
ต้อง
it
ไปเช็ค
above
ก่อน
6
พูดถูก
rather
หรือ
than
เปล่า
like the actual. So like Apothecary Diaries is a Marvel movie, and
อาจจะพูด
DDD
ผิด
is
ก็ได้
like, DDD is like the brutalist. Is that is that the gist?
I wouldn't quite say that because like there again there's also like a lot of genuine support behind like Apothecary, but yeah, I would not say necessarily like that everyone would have put it at number 1 because you know that's not what happened. But it just like it consistently with like the protagonist like Mao Mao, like a lot of people just like love her, right?
I mean, she's so great. She'll slap a bitch.
Yeah,
โอเค
I
ผม
really
พูดผิด มันมี
appreciate
17 ตอน
Apothecary Diaries and Yatagrass to a lesser extent because I didn't haven't finished it yet. But like the sort of suspense that's generated and the thrill that's generated from these like high society kind of conflicts where it's like relatively low stakes in the sense that like it's usually like, oh no, she's wearing the same perfume or she's doing this, but like it has high consequences in the sense of like you could be kicked out, your livelihood could be ruined.
Yeah, that's sort of like high society thing where everything basically just comes down to status and flexing on everyone else.
Yeah, there's nothing that's more invigorating sometimes than just like someone walking into a ball or a gala and be like, oh, she wore that same dress. What am I gonna do now? He was like, oh shit, what is she gonna do?
But that's not to leave everyone in suspense. I want to thank you guys for coming on and then chatting with me about them.
Oh yeah, thanks for
อ๋อ
having us. We appreciate it.
ต่อไป
いやいや、びっくりした。長生きしてね。
すごい。あんなに速くて、あんなに遠くへ。それに。とりあえず一回撃ってみる？っていうか撃ってみよう。
มันทำอะไรวะ โอเค โอเค
I'm glad I got that.
Yeah.
Animation is at the basis of what makes anime, but we have to remember it encompasses so much. We remember the Kamehamehas and flashy impact frames, but even a simple walk cycle has a not so simple team of animators
มีวิ
behind
ตอ
the
เรีย
scenes. In this category, we look to recognize the hardworking industry professionals that literally give our shows life. Here are the nominees for Best Animation of 2024.
ไม่ได้ได้น่าได้นะเฮ้ยเบสแอนิเมชันนะตัดสายฟ้าได้เลยด้วย
Jury winner for the category of
Oh.
best animation is
แปดเลย
Delicious in Dungeon,
สลับกับฟรีเลนนะ
and the public winner is Freerun
Freelance.
Beyond Journey's End.
Now,
Feel
these are
it.
two pretty big heavyweights in the animation space, the respective studios being Trigger and then, of course,
วันดี
Madhouse.
อ่ะ
But I have to say, I wasn't really expecting Delicious in Dungeon to do so well. Could you explain a
มันแบบ
little bit
ว่าไง
behind
ดีวะ
what you see is some of the pros of the animation in Dunmeshi?
โอเค
Delicious in Dungeon is definitely an interesting winner for the jury category due to the fact that rather than kind of like innovating with sort of like new ways of presenting the sort of like animation pipeline into sort of like the 21st century, kind of tries to reinforce the sort of like basic principles of the layout
อีเลนมันก็
that we basically
รายละเอียดอะไร
saw
มันก็
in
รู้สึกไม่แตกต่าง
like
จาก
improving
Delicious
and
Dungeon
improving,
มากขนาดนั้นนะ
until like very recently, until I would say the early 2010s, when things started getting more rougher in that area, and it really tried to focus a lot on kind of like old-timer like freelancers and internal animators compared to, for example, Freerun, that is instead very, very keen on to bringing a lot of newer animators and newer supervisors into the sort of like the big names of the production. In this sense, I would argue that while there are definitely a lot of other shows that had like definitely flashier type of action and definitely like some there were like a little bit more innovation even. At the end of the day, Danmeshi was really able
ถ้ามันดี
to
เท่า
give
แบบ
every single
สาม
sort
ตอน
of like
เอ้ยเดี๋ยว
character and
วิตเตอ
every
เรียถ้าแบบ
single creature
ถ้ามัน
kind of
แบ
like
บ
their own sort of physicality
คงคุณภาพแบบ3ตอนแรกแบบโอ้มึงทำทุกอย่างที่แบบทุกอย่างขยับได้มันก็คงจะดีกว่านี้มั้ง
in terms of like the execution. While for example in Freerun, while Freerun has a lot of incredibly good scenes that really showed
ถ้าวิตเตอเรียมี3ตอนเนี่ยอันที่หนึ่งเลย
but also
แต่มันจะไม่ตลกกันดิ
general personalities and the full atmosphere of the work. In Danmeshi, there really is kind of like a lot of pre-production work that started from kind of like the general director, then to go to like the animation supervisor, and then to the individual animator with like very specific intent in mind. While I feel like that something like Freerun, for example, was really able to just kind of like capture the individual talent of individual animators. And that kind of approach is, unfortunately, I would argue, becoming really, really common in a lot of other shows because stuff like, for example, Elusam, Dandadan, Makine, all of these kind of like enter, in my humble opinion, into that kind of like category. While, you know, like probably only Bikeophonium and a little bit Oshinoko try to keep like sort of like consistent, sort of like worldview within the animation department.
Which is what like Kyoto Animation and like Dokokoba are really known for, right? A lot of like their own in-studio staff. So, Dalu, I just wanted you to talk on about exactly what came into this decision. I know a lot in the animation jury, there's a lot of conversation about like consistency, right? So I think a lot of the times something that scores really high on the public side has a lot of like really big moments. Those are like really heart-stopping, wrenching moments. What kind of went into the thought process between this kind of ranking for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at the jury this year, very much it was a case of, not to say really subjective views, but more so like varied kind of preferences. So consistency was something that came up for sure, but also those kind of like, you know, Sakuga highs, as they want to say.
All about the Sakuga, baby.
Lots of Sakuga. This year was interesting in that there was a lot of really impressive sequences in these shows, especially Frieren and Dungeon Meshi. But I think when it comes to why the top two ended up being what they were, it was definitely very close between the two. I think for many, especially because both shows are, you know, two core ventures, consistency comes into question. Both are very consistent. They've got really strong, even beyond stuff that you'd see on like the Buru, very strong drawings and sequences across each episode, very high consistencies. But I think for the jury, it came down more to just the amount of highs and variation. The jury really likes those creative showings, and Dungeon Meshi kind of feels like it has the most those like departures, so you can really feel the episode director or like animation directors come through and what their vision is for the episode.
Okay.
So for us, I
ปี
think
เลน
that was
เด
what made
Demon
it push
Slayer
above Frieren.
ครับ
But to say, you know, first or second, they're both incredibly strong shows. To sum it all up, I would basically say top ones are the most consistent shows with the most individual and impressive highs, and you know, episodes you're like, oh, I remember that one when, you know, this director was showing off this scene and stuff like that. The rest, everything below that, good shows, impressive drawings, but not quite as consistent.
I want to thank you, Far, for coming on. I mean, I know that we're really privileged to have someone so knowledgeable about the industry to come and talk with us.
No biggie. I'm just a guy.
You know, just a guy. But you know, thanks. Move on. We're moving on with the show.
Okay.
Background art is a term that I almost
Background.
consider a misnomer. Because while yes,
Background
they may
level.
fill out the background, never does their focus or importance fade into the background. It's one of the most important elements anime creators have at their disposal
ไม่น่า
to
นะ มัน
utterly
มี
dictate
เสานก
the
นะ
vibe of a show, laying the foundation for the animators to do their work. Just as much as a great smear or Sakuga moment, a great background can take your breath away. Here are your nominees for Best Background Art of 2024.
ไม่รู้ว่ะ แจมเจียน ตีเลนก็ติดเฮ้ย ขอบคุณครับ ขอบคุณครับอ้าวแย่จังอ้าวโอ้โหไม่รู้
The jury winner is The Diary of Ochibi-san.
โอ้
And the public winner is Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
So I can't say I'm necessarily particularly
อะไรวะ
surprised at any
เฮ้
of
ย
these. However, you know, in
เรื่อง
one
อะไร
little
อ่ะ
pre-talk, you did express a little bit of surprise about Frieren of all things winning for the public. Can you explain a little about that?
Well, I mean, just looking at
เฮ้ย
the
สาวนกที่ 9 ได้ไงวะ
the backgrounds itself,
โอ้
I don't
อันนี้
think
อันนี้ปัญญา
any
อ่อน
of
แล้ว
these
อันนี้
things
ปัญญา
are
อ่อนแล้ว
really. I would have put it under a lot of other things. Like I would
อัน
put
นี้
kaiju over
ไม่
this,
ใช่ละ
elusive samurai over Frieren, Dandadan over Apothecary. I'd put a lot of things over it, but I guess public vote, so I'm not too surprised. But Ochibi-san winning the jury makes a lot of sense. It is Studio Pablo that does it.
รอ
Which
บทสัม
they're
ภาษณ์เลย
great. They're like one of the current studios that still do background art in hand drawn most of the time. They did Dororo. They did Dororo 2019. So yeah, when it comes to background art, I'm not surprised they got the win. But Frieren, yeah.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for the public here because
Oh.
so the art director for Frieren is Sawako Takagi, known for stuff like Cardcaptor Movie 2, done a lot of Bleach stuff. But the whole premise of Frieren, right, is that we are
ควร
following
ถาม
this
เนี่ย
band of
มัน
adventurers
มาได้
after
ไง
the
เนี่ย
major story has ended, right? Because Frieren has such a long life and she's kind of
บ้า
doing this like whimsical, melancholy remembrance of the past, right? In that aspect, the art direction actually reinforces the themes quite well. Because we literally see the places that Frieren has visited 80 years ago once again. So you're able to see this kind of contrast in between the flashbacks and the present time, ruined buildings and these like storied places that look like they were really important at one point, now kind of desolate and broken down, much like
มันโหวตตามรายชื่อสตูดิโอมาเนี่ย
and I think people don't realize exactly how much backgrounds assist in
เชื่อว่าไม่ใช่อย่างนั้นนะ
telling
เชื่อว่า
kind of like narrative
มี
story
คน
behind the scenes.
ดู
I think
เยอะมาก
it's just like it's pretty setting and whatever.
Ow.
Like you said in your famous video, all the anime backgrounds. This is literally the world that
ดู
our
ต่อสักชั่วโมงได้ไหม
characters inhabit.
Yeah, it's a big part of the world building. Yeah, obviously it works with the show well. Obviously, I just mean more like on a specifically an aesthetic level. Even if looking at it compared to like Elusive Samurai, like I would put that above it mainly because like I will
แต่
say
วัน
it's
ก่
a
อน
bit unfair when something is like hand drawn. I feel like that kind of gives it a real big up, but I won't deny that it obviously works really well in the context of its series.
Well, Jack, can you explain to us exactly what the jury thought of Frieren and maybe exactly why
แต่วันก่อนเนี่ย
Chibi-san
ก็
kind
ตื่น
of,
เนี่ยแบบ
outperforms
ดู
it?
วันผิด
So with Frieren,
ตื่นวันเสาร์อะ
obviously you mentioned the journey aspect of the show, and that's where the backgrounds are really good because it's able to breathe life into the world of
ยัง
Frieren.
คุยไม่จบเหรอ
So it does this by having things like different architecture
อ่ะ
wherever they go.
ไม่ไป
So
บุ
it
ก
has
บุ
like
จิ
cells
กิริ
that
บ้าง
go
อะ
on a journey, and then also the passage of time.
เออ
is very
ที่
big
สอง
thing
เลยนะ
with
เว้ย
Frieren.
ทำไมจะไม่คุย
Shows
วะ
it through seasons or with like memories of the past with like the statues of Himmel. But the world is kind of like a very classic high fantasy world. The IP said the style is kind of normal-ish. Like it's still very good style. Like it's a bunch of detail. Makes for really good scenery. But compared to Ochibi, which is a very like unique art style, which is really good with how it interacts with nature. Because like Ochibi is a show that's like about backgrounds. Like the characters will interact with nature throughout, and then the nature just looks really beautiful with the way they do it. And they give it like different detailing depending on how far in the frame it is. And then it has like other cool things where it uses like a parallax effect to create like depth in the backgrounds.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think that just goes to show kind of Japan's focus on setting and background and establishing a world, right?
Yeah.
IP. There's a quote that really spoke to me in your video where you're talking about something that Miyazaki once said, right? Where I can't remember the exact thing, but it was about the sound in between claps.
The sound in between
exactly.
claps. Yeah. Ma. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that for our viewers?
Ma is what you said. It's the sound in between the claps. It's basically the quiet moments. It's a perfect example is when you're watching Spirited Away and there's that huge long scene where it's just like Chihiro on the train and it's just like a long like period of time but nothing is really happening. They're just kind of riding the train.
เทียบอะไรกับ
just kind
Spirited
of
Away นะ
taking the moment in. It's almost like a moment of
ซีเรนหรือ
smelling the flowers.
โอจิบิ
That's
ซัง
what
เนี่ย
Ma is. It's the sound in between the claps. A lot of anime focuses on it actually more so than I feel like a lot of other media.
Just like that opportunity to like really sit with something, right? And like let it kind of intertwine with your soul. That kind of
Yeah. No, I feel like that's what brings a lot of the whimsy, if anything. Like,
would you say that Ochibi-san kind of has those moments of ma, as it were?
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, as I said, the show is all about its backgrounds.
มันมี
It's kind of like how the characters interact with nature. So they're a big part of the show. And going for like the seasons in Japan, a bunch of different plants, and showing like the beauty of nature, but also like the impermanence of it. So there's some moments where it's kind of a regular slice of life show. There's some moments where it gets kind of deep, and the backgrounds are a big part of that.
So anyone watching this, if you're really into backgrounds, if you want to discover a little bit more about the art directors and people behind all this stuff, really highly recommend checking any of these out, as well as Internet Pitstop's video on the subject.
Thank you.
Nice.
Before a character even opens their mouth to speak, you can often infer a great deal of information simply from their design. Whether that's through a myriad of hairstyles, the appearance of cat ears, or an absurd number of bows, this category implores you to decipher the story that the animators are telling before any story actually takes place. Here are the nominees for Best Character Design of 2023.
ว่าแล้วทำไมมันติด2 อันเนี่ย
死体のコスプレ？
幽霊です。こんな健康的な死体ある？
健康的な？
こ
れアイスさん？
เกี่ยวกับ
リップの色が違う。
อ้าวอ้าว
And your winner for both the public and jury vote is Delicious in Dungeon.
I'm gonna play the kind of dumb, no production knowledge thing here because I'm honestly kind of surprised at this result. I mean, Dunmeshi is great. I love the show. It's very creative and visually looks great. But the character design in and of itself to me is kind of simple. I mean, it's kind of stereotypical, generic, medieval D&D kind of design, right? Could you explain exactly what's so appealing about it from a character design standpoint?
I think with character design, it's kind of a weird one. Like some years it's clearly like, okay, we are judging the character design itself. Other years we're, as a production award, we're judging the way the character design is used. In this case, Delicious in Dungeon, it's an adaptation of Ryoko Kui's manga work. So I disagree that they're generic. I think there's a huge amount of appeal and joy that you don't really get from most fantasy designs. I mean, most fantasy designs these days are kind of in the isekai sphere, but there's kind of roundedness, and as you said in your intro, like you take one look at them and you get exactly what they're about. But also, not just we're looking at Ryoko Kui's work in the manga, but then
ลืมขออนุญาตเลย
the character designer
ได้หรือเปล่าคุณ ICU
who created
แต่ผมไลฟ์ไปแล้วอะ
versions of them that could be animated in all the different like both serious and wacky ways that we see them in the anime. And that's kind of why I wanted to be a part of this category this year in particular, because I think we've got so many great nominees.
ในห้องแชร์คอนเทนต์
We're kind of looking at how do character designers take these images from the manga and turn them into something that has like a huge amount of appeal.
คนดู0 คน
Character
โอเค
designers
ขอบ
in
คุณ
anime are basically creating the scaffold for how they can be animated. Without a great character designer like we have in Delicious in Dungeon, we couldn't get all those brilliant scenes, because the animators would be looking and going, how do I move this character?
I somehow always manage to forget that character design is, when it comes to adaptations, like one of the things that you have to strike a nice balance between, right? Of making something that's conducive to animation while also preserving the original feel and art style that people love from the manga.
I would say from the jury perspective, that's actually one of like the big strengths of Delicious in Dungeon 2 that you said, Ken, about the scaffolding. Like it has that signature trigger kind of malleability to the character designs. You can do so much with them. You might not even notice like Marcel has her hair done differently in like almost every single episode. It's very impressive.
And Eggman, something else I was thinking about as well. I mean, Delicious in Dungeon, obviously, part of the appeal is all of these fantastical creatures and whatnot. I think Yuto Kaneko did the monster design. Was that a factor when it came to ranking it as well?
Definitely, yeah. I think the strength of the Dunmeshi monster designs is that it's a combination of like really solidly done traditional fantasy creatures, but then also brand new creatures that have their own flair to them and that you've never seen before, that move in strange ways and animate really well.
Yeah, I keep thinking that this should have been like some collaboration with Dungeons and Dragons, because this is the most appeal, aside from like Baldur's Gate 3 or something, that I've seen from that kind of Dungeons and Dragons base, and it takes it in just really wild and creative ways, and it's the expressions on every character, like including the monsters. Yeah, I'm glad that we are accounting for those monster designs in this category, because they are so stand out. Doing them all in 2D as well, which means that they can kind of just fit, like blend into the world, and like we don't have that case where it's like a typical Trigger character design. Not to say this is a typical Trigger character design, it's a bit different from what used to, but you know, that kind of rounded, fun expression, like expressive model. And I'm so glad that we didn't have that next to like some realistic 3D or anything. Like all those dragons, all these bizarre creatures, they all just like blend in.
It's really fitting that the public is able to recognize this as well, because a lot of the production categories, there's a kind of a disconnect between the jury and the public, and not necessarily due to like lack of knowledge or anything, but hope you can check out their work and hope that you pay attention to
พูดถึง
this kind of
คาวาอี้สลามได้หรือยัง
neglected aspect of production. And on with the show. Get ready for some absolute cinematography. This encompasses everything to the layout of shots to just how red a scene is. It works effortlessly together with animation, character design, and other production elements to contribute to a seamless viewing experience. If you ask me, it's one of the most important things when it comes to replay value. Here are your nominees for Cine 2024.
แต่กรรมการนี่น่าดูมันพูดคราวที่แล้วเด็แม่
いくら内気なお前でも今のお前でも相手が自分だったならいくらでもコミュニケーションを取れるだろう。だからアシスタントとして星を照らす存在なんかじゃない。自分自身が眩しく輝く太陽みたいな。客観的かつ論理的に話をしているつもりだけど。
โอ้ยซีนีมาでも
自尊心はあるが高慢ではない。東宮のあれこれで嫌なお嬢様を想像していたのだが、鎌倉の民たち、こんな首では不足だが、せめて
And the winners are, for the jury, Delicious in Dungeon. And for the public, Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
Now, Dunmeshi as a win here is interesting to me just because so much
ไหน
of
มั
it
น
is set
ให้ฟรีเรนที่เท่าไหร่ที่5
Do you is
Eh?
that a particular kind of interesting constraint? Do you think replay, and how do you think they worked around it?
So actually,
โอ้ย
I
ไอ้
don't
เหี้
know
ย
if it's a particular constraint. I guess
มันจะเป็น
so
อย่างนั้นได้ไง
as
วะ
far as like backgrounds are concerned, but Dunmeshi does so much interesting with lighting, and it really is benefited by the fact that it's
Oh.
not a traditional dungeon. You have plenty of
ไม่
different
น่าได้แล้ววะ
like locations and
พี่เก
lighting ventures that you can play with.
คิดอะไร
And
วะ
it also just like Trigger is in its absolute bag, willing to mix up shot types, using pans for comedy, the way the
หมด
shots
หวั
are
งแล้ววะ
constructed to build depth of
ไม่น่า
field.
ได้แห่งปีละ
Dunmeshi is a beautiful anime to look at, in my opinion.
No, for sure. Was that a consideration when judging
หรือว่าแม่ง
Dunmeshi in
ไม่ได้
regards
ช
to
วน
some
Under the
character
Scope
design?
มา
Yes, most of the discussion around Dunmeshi focused around the usage of frames
ไม่มี
and
อะไรเรียก
staging,
เขาได้นอกจาก
in
คิบิ
the
เกะ
sense
ยู
of
โฟเนียม
there weren't really any scenes where there were wasted space, and you would normally expect that from a series
แต่
that
ปลุกเขาต้อง
is
เอาฮิบิ
mostly
เกะมาล่อนะ
in an
Under
indoor
the
setting.
Scope
But what Dunmeshi does is it keeps its characters and
ตอน
objects
เอ
and
อ
effects all evenly spaced throughout almost any given scene, so nothing ever really feels wasted. I agree that Trigger is definitely in their element with this show. Trigger is very used to keeping scenes interesting by adding effects or placing cameras in specific manners to where there is no wasted space.
To be clear, I think it's interesting that you're saying there's no wasted space, because I would actually say that Delicious Dungeon is kind of minimalist for Trigger in a lot of their shots. Like they do leave a lot of open space. Cinematography is not just about what they include in the frame, but also the stuff that isn't in the frame at all. To like provide blocking, for example, so that shadows can get blown on the wall, exactly like you have in the jury image for this. And I think that's something that Frieren does really well. Frieren's like is a little bit more minimalist in terms of its cinematography, allowing characters and backgrounds to really step out and be extremely impressive, in addition to incredible lighting and its color palette kind of being like a watercolor aesthetic. Frieren just blew me away in terms of its cinematography this year. To me, the public has it 100% right on this one.
Ooh.
I find myself agreeing with Frieren having the opposite desire in terms of their approach to cinematography, because there is indeed a lot of open space in Frieren, and they utilize that to enhance a lot of their emotional moments and add a lot of feeling to Frieren's themes of separation.
You know, part of why cinematography resonates so much with me is when it is used to drive those narrative themes down. I think Frieren really to a T utilizes it in that way, in terms of all the like different match cuts that go from present time to past time, right? Where the kind of parallel of Frieren remembering her journey with Himmel, but also re-experiencing those same memories in a different context, and how the cinematography reflects that, I think is really neat.
Absolutely. One of my favorite shots in Frieren is during the Blue Moon Weed section, I believe in episode 2, where Himmel and Frieren are in a chasm of opposite sides on the frame, as literally as far apart as possible, just to place them out of time with one another. I can't think of a single time when watching Frieren last year where I was like, you know what, this shot is pretty boring. I think every single shot in some way either builds into the next one, characters are dynamic within the frames. It's a treat that it can maximize both characters and the landscape, give a sense to like the grandiose nature of the adventure, and also keep it as like a very focused character drama at the same time. Frieren's cinematography is at another level this year. Though to be clear, I don't think there were no bad picks here. I think all 10 of the shows like deserved it. In fact, like I see the jury has Oshinoko Season 2 as 9. I thought the cinematography in Oshinoko Season 2 was great, although I do agree, despite the fact that I love Apothecary Diaries. Apothecary Diaries kind of slept on cinematography this year.
And that's kind of what our discussions ultimately landed on in the jury as well. Like every single one of the 10 picks do a fantastic job of what they do. All 10 picks are good picks. It's just a matter of what little pieces did one show do over another.
And at the end of the day, that's what cinematography really excels at. It's showing and not telling at the end of the day. But thank you guys so much for coming to join me. It's been a great talking to y'all, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having us.
ちょっと前にも言ったけどさ、ここずっとうちらが使ってたんだよね。
あ、じゃあ名前でも書いとけよ。
別のとこでやるって言ってんだ。
あ
It's truck month, and there's no better place to buy than Power Ford Truck World. No matter what you're looking for, we've got your truck. Check out the all-new Built Ford Tough Ranger, or how about Ford Super Duty?
Just like the bass line in a song, the soundtrack is something in the background of many shows that most of the time doesn't draw attention, but nonetheless supports the production, providing a strong base of support from which to connect to the viewer. And of course, those moments where the soundtrack proudly makes itself known.
ไม่ได้ก็โดน
Here are your nominees for Best Soundtrack of 2024.
ไม่เป็นไรโดนเอามาตบกลางสี่แยกมัน
じゃあ本当に行く？
十分に言うだったら完成じゃん。ほう、飛べるのか。面白い。
ゾルトラーク。
何？
เฮ้ยดู เทียบน่าจะไม่ได้วะ
And the
โอ้โห
winners
ไอ้
for
เหี้ย
Best
ที่ 9
Soundtrack, the jury has selected Monogatari series Off and Monster Season.
เฮ้ย
And the public has chosen
อ๋อ
Furiden Beyond Journey's End.
เฮ้ย คนดูทีวีเกตที่ 4
I mean,
ขอบคุณ
such
ครั
a
บ
wonderful composer. He's also well known, at least in my mind, for these like big sweeping like
ไอ้ที่เท่าไหร่
orchestral
ที่ 7 มโนกาตาริคน
pieces,
ดู
right? I mean, really stuff that like really lays on the emotion, which of course in a
เฮ้
series
ย
like Free Reign, which is all
ไอ้
about
เหี้ย
kind of melancholy,
โอ้ได้ไอ้เรื่องเคี้ยนี่มากกว่าทีวีเกตยูโฟเนียม
sense
ว่ะ
of the past that you can never get back. I think it's quite fitting.
Well, this is a sweeping epic fantasy, right? I know when it was coming out, people were really refreshed that it was like a pure fantasy action adventure series that didn't have these like otaku trappings, perhaps. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think people were really refreshed by that, and a lot of that is contributed by everything that Madhouse was doing on production level, as well as Evan Call's soundtrack, that gave it this very classic, old school kind of feeling to it that made it feel like you're watching something special.
But you know, at the same time, one of
Bartender.
the tracks that people really laud a lot is Soul Track. But I find that those kind of tracks have this almost kind of supernatural, synthy, techno-y quality. But since it's being applied to a sort of like supernatural magic element, I think the series blends the two ideas quite well.
Yeah, I think it's it's very modern and up to the sensibilities and everything. Yeah, and it's surprising that for the public it beat out 2 different music-related anime.
Caleb, would you mind giving us some thoughts about Free Reign, what the jury thought about it, and it's kind of why the public would be drawn to it, in your opinion?
Yeah, Free Reign was one of the best soundtracks of the year, I think, for both the jury and the public. And you guys kind of touched on it
ปีที่แล้วมัน
already,
ก็
but
ให้ไม
does,
โก
like,
นะ
the fantasy adventure kind of swoon very well with like large and vast strings and woodwinds. It like kind of highlights their journey through these like expansive unknown lands, and it like invites you into their world and is like very whimsical and ethereal. But then you have the
กรรมการ
battle
แต่ละ
tracks
ปี
like
มันไม่
Soul
เหมือนกัน
Track
นะ
that like highlight the battle sequences, and they're very epic in scale and large. So I can totally see how the soundtrack, specifically in Free Reign, like gets you very engaged in the story and the world and the characters.
อ๋อ
What I also want to point out is that a lot of what Freerun is about
แล้วทำไมมันอยู่
it's about,
ที่สี่อะ
you know, carrying someone's memory through your life, even after they're long gone. And Shabes, you mentioned leitmotifs or motifs in general that play.
Yeah, leitmotifs is more of the track. Yeah.
Himmel's theme is
ขาด
one
ใจ
that
ว่ะ
people point out quite a lot. This is maybe a question for
บาร์เทนเดอร์มันมากกว่า
you know, is it
อิ
the
ติเกะ
kind of
ว่ะ
thing where Himmel's theme will show up in certain situations to kind of remind the audience of him?
Yeah, they have a lot of flashbacks, and leitmotifs are kind of a thing that's always talked about through, well, with discussion through soundtrack. Sort of off topic, but I know like Metallic Rouge and Monogatari specifically did leitmotifs very heavily to like call back specific instances or themes, and I think Freyren also probably did that with Himmel's theme, because there's, you know, tons of flashbacks going back to Freyren remembering her past party members and how she can relate that to her current journey, which kind of ties the whole story together in a way.
It makes sense that Monogatari has that strength with leitmotifs, because it's probably not just referring back to previous parts of its own soundtrack, but previous parts of the soundtrack from an entire franchise that it's a part of, the latest in a very long-running franchise since like 2010. And the composers, Kei Haneoka and Satoru Kosaki, both have worked on the series for a very long time. So they have the kind of advantage that a lot of these other nominees might not have, in which they have this kind of existing catalog to rely on. I'm not sure how much often Monster Season uses previous tracks, but that's something that you have when you have a longer franchise. You can keep adding on to the soundtrack and create kind of a larger repertoire and more potentially more effective repertoire that like longtime viewers get very familiar with certain ideas and instrument choices and things like that, and it reinforces the soundtrack. Monogatari has a very particular identity with like the kinds of instruments it uses and the types of songs that it chooses to use.
I mean, right off the bat, the OP for Nadeko Draw is a direct callback to Renai Circulation. I mean, no, they say the thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing.
ยังดูไม่จบอาร์ค
Nadeko
นาเด
is
โกะ
like
เลย
a main focus for a good part of the season.
ยัง
and
ดูอาร์ค
that is like
นาเดโกะยังไม่จบเลย
character-specific
ไอช่วงแรก
leitmotif that gets
โมโนกาตา
repeated.
ริ
It's like a Renai
มอนเตอร์ซีซั่น
Circulation kind of remix in a way. And I think they do a good job at calling back previous seasons, since like a lot of the characters are recurring throughout, you know, season on season.
And to continue, another positive leitmotif of the stream, here's a message from a very special person. Thank you to everybody at our anime for this great honor. Writing the music for Free Run Beyond Journey's End was so
A1
much
call
fun, and it
A1
really
call
took me back to my folk music roots. I worked to combine a mixture of Celtic and Americana with orchestra to bring a sense of nostalgia, hope, and excitement to the already amazing world of Free Run.
เพิ่มเติมให้
I'm
กับคุณ
so happy that
ตึ๊
you
ด
all
ตึ๊ด
enjoyed my soundtrack.
อ่ะฮะ
I worked
ซีซั่น
extra
2 ยัง
hard
อ
to
ยู่
bring you even more for season
ขอบคุณ
2,
ครับ
which I'm composing right at this moment. I hope someday to do more orchestra concerts and to take you all on a musical journey. But until then, the road to Enda continues.
อืม
スケーティングは1日やそこらではものにはならない。自分だけの中心の一点を探して何度も練習を重ねて磨き続けていくものなんだ。もう一度やってみよう。
A lot of the emphasis in anime tends to favor the visual side of things, and that's understandable. It is short for animation after all. But I think for things to truly live up to their potential, voice acting is paramount. Because while pretty colors and expert smears are all well and good, At the end of the day, you come for the sakuga, but you stay for the acting. With talented stars such as Shion Wakayama, Yuma Uchida, and Aoi Yuki at the helm, how could you not fall in love? Here are your nominees for Best Voice Acting of 2024.
虫から生えた奇妙な草を持ったその男は
ก็เป็นยูกิอาโอ
マレアオフコラボだぞ。私なんてさっきからずっとチャラちゃんに抱きついてムキューしてるんだぞ。いいだろう。握手してもらえますか。ええ、喜んで。
400円？
悪くないね。でもその400円の壁、私がこれで破ってあげる。何にも気を使わないでいいし、そっとしておいてくれると嬉しいです。いつかはちゃんと。これ以上はまずい。人気、そんなの分かってる。悔しい、悔しい、悔しい、悔しい。世界らしく。信じてる派だから。
いや幽霊なんているわけないでしょ。
話合わせて言ったらそれは絶対すんのかよ。
โอ้ยโอ้ย
私はソリじゃなくてもお願いだから二度とそういうこと言わないで。それはいい。
ขอร้องเนี่ยมีลุ้นแค่รางวัลเดียวแล้ว
ありがとうございます。村人や仲間をよく死なせちゃうんすよ。
大変、引いちゃった。
何してんだお前。
ไว้สารคุ
And the winner for
Hey.
best voice acting
เฮ้ยต้องได้แล้วปะ
consensus between the jury and the public
อ๋อไม่ได้อะ
is Aoi Yuki as Mao Mao from the Apothecary Diaries. Well deserved, in my opinion.
So deserved that I think if you flash back all the way back to 2023,
วิโกะกูอยู่ไหนวะ
you were literally talking about
โอ้
why
วิโกะกูอยู่ที่ห้า
for
โอ้โห
this category back then.
ที่ห้า
One last thing, I do want to shout out Aoi Yuki's
เอ้า
performance.
อะไรอ่ะ
in,
จะบอกว่าได้ไปแล้วไม่ต้องได้อีกเหรอ
eligible for awards this year, but it would be in my top 3 of VA performances of the year if it were eligible. So next year.
Oh, you know we are on that next year. It's
100%.
amazing.
อ๋อ
Yeah,
ปีที่แล้วก็
last
เซต
year
เดิมนี่หว่า
we were on and we talked about how great a performance she was giving in the first core of Apothecary Diaries, but obviously it wasn't yet, didn't quite qualify for the Anime Awards yet. So it's really exciting to see, a year later that, we were right. She was giving an incredible performance and it seems like everyone agreed.
I mean, how could you doubt Aoi Yuki, right? I mean, just
No.
a veteran of the industry, always a sheer pleasure to
ค
listen
น
to,
ดูให้ที่
no matter what series she's in.
โหคนดูให้ที่สาม
Unbelievably good at voicing what I like to call gremlin characters,
หล่อ
which we had a lot of them. I felt like a lot of the nominees this year for voice acting were characters that could be considered gremlins in some way, shape, or form. Whether or not it's Mao Mao or, Fuka from Gushing Over Magical Girls, or everyone's favorite maniac Ana Yanami from McCain. It felt like a lot of the hard hitters this year were like kind of on the gremlin side.
I mean, the thing about Mao Mao, though, to me, is just that even though she is, heavy gremlin energy, right? She also embodies kind of a matter-of-factness that I find so engaging, which really goes along with her character, right? She sees a problem and she instantly is curious, wants to know what's going on and figure out for herself. I think that's that combination of being serious and investigative when she needs to be, but also those little moments where her joy and passion for poison of all things just like comes over her. It's such a nice eclectic mix that's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think what gets her to the point where she's a deserved winner for this category is the range, right? Is, the things we all remember are like the little fun noises and when she's freaking out about a different type of mushroom or stuff like that, or when the cat ears pop up, on screen. But it's also, an incredible dramatic performance as well. And when she gets serious, she can get very, very serious. The breadth of the acting is, I think, why she's the most deserved for this award.
I mean, I think my favorite voice acting scene of last year for sure, of all time, I don't know. When they're at Gokoyu's little shindig and she's tasting the poison for the first time and she, looks up, does a little look and goes, "Doku desu," and then like immediately rushes off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's such a memorable moment. And I think like 80% of the reason why it's so memorable is because of Aoi Yuki's acting there. But Chairman, what do you think? Do you think we've hit the head on the nail here? The nail on the head about exactly why she was rated so highly.
I mean, I can't agree more with all the things that you've brought up about Yuki Aoi's performance as Mao Mao. The range, amazing. The highlight performances with the highlight scenes from the show. Episode 4 is also a great example when she's just kind of beating up the servants at the Crystal Pavilion, just like really channeling all her rage and stuff like that. So definitely everything you said. But one thing that I think the voice acting jury tends to focus a lot on for the many years that I've been part of the VA jury is that consistency is really important, because when we analyze a voice acting performance from start to finish, we actually have to watch every single scene. And if there are scenes that we, as we're watching the anime, we're not remembering, but then when we go back and analyze, we're like, oh, some of these scenes are not as good as what we remember from her performances, or like the highlight of her performances, then that really will detract an evaluation of a performance for the jury, right? And I think one thing that tends to be a consistent point in the top rankings for the jury is that consistency throughout the show, is that when we're looking at every single scene, we see a very high quality, a high consistent bar. There are no weak scenes. There are no moments we feel like the acting is actually not up to the quality of the character. And Yuki Aoi is just easily the most consistent performance from this year. Like every single scene, she's so good. If I might actually highlight something that's really cool about Yuki Aoi, I like how Ian mentioned that she is like a gremlin character. I call roles like her yappers. She just talks a lot. She just constantly talks, does not stop talking, right? And usually these roles, they're very favored for exposition. They have to explain everything that's going on. They have to give like the background, world building, all that stuff. It's so easy for voice actors when they're just giving expositions to not be in character, to just kind of like read off the script, just kind of like, let's be as clear and concise as possible. But every single time she's giving exposition, she's just yapping, whether monologuing in her head or talking out loud, which are two different voices that she uses. Insanely good. She's always in character. She's always giving it like the full Mao Mao energy. She's making sure her inflection like changes based on how Mao Mao is feeling about the exposition that she's saying, which is just a superb like attention to detail. It's so good.
But this is all the time we have. Thank you guys for coming up and talking with me about voice acting.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
อะไรต่อวะ Opening
An opening sets the tone for the whole shebang, priming the viewer for what's to come. It's a pure encapsulation of what it's all about. Just take a look at our own opening. While some don't even consider it part of the overall package, those people are wrong. Some of the best moments can be found in the first 90 seconds. Here are your nominees for Best Opening of 2024.ใครจะรู้เรื่องนี้อ่ะ
And the jury winner is One Piece Opening 26,
Asu.
ได้ไงวะ
And the public chose Dandadan Otonoke.
โอเคไปเลนที่สอง
Now, this is one of the categories that you specifically requested, Ina. Well, why is that? Are you like a particular fan of openings? Are you an opening kind of person?
I think like any anime fan, openings, they bring you into the show. I listen to openings to, even though I may not be like a music extraordinaire, I can say I like this one. I like that one. The sounds, ooh, very nice. Openings really set the scene for what a show you're about to watch. I feel like they're also one of the more memorable things about a show too when you think of an anime.
What do you think about the general slate of openings we had for this year?
There are a few that I have never heard of or seen, and then some, of course, that I'm not surprised from, like Frieren, Girls Band Cry, Dandadan, of course. But I wasn't expecting to see obscure-ish seasonal anime out of the other ones, I guess, of the lineup of 2024.
ไอ้ soundtrack อะ
Which would be what? Like, which one of these would you consider like a little more obscure?
The How to Become Ordinary, Astronaut. Yeah, these are what anime that I haven't heard of, but watching the openings for some of them made me want to watch it. So,
Whoops, can you kind of give us some insight into exactly how you come across these? Like, do all of you really watch, like, sit there and just like watch everything that comes out? I mean, that must be a ton of shows, right?
Yeah, you got it right. It's just the arduous task of going through every single OP that has appeared this year. So that includes leftover shows from last year or from way back, like One Piece, which is has about one OP every year. So yeah, it's just the arduous task of going through everything and ultimately getting to pick only 5 as the jury and having to let all the other 200 or something. Yeah, that's you pretty much nailed on the head, and it being a quite a undertaking, but also quite exciting to find something obscure with a really good OP that you wouldn't have found otherwise.
You know, which one out of these is your favorite?
it's so hard to pick between the two. I am not surprised or disappointed to see One Piece winning the jury and Dandadan winning the public. Those two are probably my pick, personally.
You know, when it's as someone not really well versed in this, I see like One Piece opening 26, and I'm just my eyes kind of start to glaze over. Like, is it really that good?
Absolutely. I mean, One Piece has sort of been turning up the heat on openings in the past 2 years or something. Last year was also really good, but this just pushes it over the edge. It's essentially just a complete bombastic barrage of incredible animation put together incredibly tightly, just shot by shot by shot, flowing perfectly, being vibrant in its color, in its movement. I mean, it's going to be hard to pick out one element to talk about why this opening is so great, which makes it hard to talk about in a short discussion. But it's just an opening that opens and just continuously puts out really interesting shortcuts that just every few seconds switch to something else interesting in a really tightly produced, well-boarded way that just start to finish. It's a treat. I can't put it on any other way. And there's other openings in this list that have moments of brilliance, but this is just one after another from start to finish. Not a single second wasted.
I was thinking about like if I had to pick between the Dandadan opening or the One Piece opening, and both of them are there can be two queens, okay? But
hey, feel free to, if you completely disagree, you can be like Dandadan all day every day. Don't know what the jury's thinking.
No, I was revisiting the One Piece opening because I only listened to it when it first came out, and then listening to it again for the r/anime awards. I had to like listen to it like maybe twice, 3 times, because all I've been doing all summer since it released, I was listening to the Dandadan opening. But the more I listened to the One Piece one and watching it, Dandadan's you listen to it, it's a classic. Something that makes anime openings special or elevates it is when the song is specifically made for it. So it's starting with like saying the name, dan da dan dan da dan dan da dan. The One Piece opening also has, they say One Piece, it's made for it. But what I think makes One Piece's stand out compared to the greatness that Dandadan is that it has the backlog and history of everything that's built up to opening 26. There's nods to old outfits that Luffy has worn. There's nods to, with every step each character takes, it's a nod to another moment in the series. It's just so fun and vibrant and colorful. It made you watching it, you know, maybe catching up might be worth it. Who knows?
Go back
It's
cry.
definitely a celebration of the series that makes you want to get stuck in and to be able to consolidate so many different characters, locations, moments. I don't know, like 2,000 episodes at this point into one opening that evokes that entire legacy. I think that's a very impressive thing to do.
Well, there you guys have it. Whether or not you are a Dandadan enjoyer or a One Piece enjoyer, I think they both definitely have their merits, as we discussed. But thank you guys for coming out to hang out with me, and I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
Thank you very much for the Action Award and the Best Opening.
Producer.
I'm truly delighted that so many people have watched Dandadan. On behalf of everyone involved in the production, including director Fuga Yamashiro, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for all of you who support this title.
Action
Dandadan is a
rom-com.
series that blends the essence of action, rom-com, and the occult, offering a variety of ways to enjoy it. We look forward to bringing you more exciting content. Thank you for your unwavering support. Producer Hiroshi Kame, Mainichi Broadcasting System. And now, here are the results of Special Awards category Episode of the Year.
つまり工作した輩とつながっているとか。
ペースト状になる。
おい。
パウダーがすっかりペースト状になったところで
おい、
もう一度ホットミルクを注ぐ。欲しい量だけだ。砂糖を適量。あとはかき混ぜれば。
おい。
ได้
あなた様の中の
เฮ้ยผมตูมตามมาหนึ่งเหรอจะเป็นใครจะเอาตอนไหนโอ้เฮ้ยเดี๋ยวอันนี้มันมีให้หมดเหรอวะไม่มีปะเดี๋ยวเพิ่งรู้ตัวมันไม่มีให้หมดนี่
Not only does every show have to have an endgame, every show has to have an ending theme. No, they're not just there so you can skip them during climax.
เพราะเมื่อกี้มันใส่ลำดับมา
Rather, they provide a much-needed opportunity to digest what you've just seen and recalibrate before moving on. Some of my favorite moments watching anime have been sitting with those simply still, stunned, slack-jawed silences as the ending sequence does its job. Here are your nominees for Best ED of 2024.
มันติดตั้ง2 อันนะ คือว่ามีรางวัลปลอบใจแล้ว ไอ้เหี้ยรู้สึกโหวตอันนี้ไป มาโยนากะพัน รูอาไค ปิดได้เหรอ มันปิดได้เหรอ ปิดตรงไหน
And your jury winner
เนี่ยเหรอ
for best ending is
ปิดเว็บไซต์
Crazy for You
เนี่ยเหรอ
from Too Many Losing Heroines. And your public winner for best ending is Anytime Anywhere from Freerun.
คอนโด
Now, I think Makeine actually had a couple of different endings. Is that correct? Is there one for every girl?
Yes, there is. And I was going to say, you guys have made some great choices here because I felt like Heroines, I'm not even going to try to say the Japanese name, I'm sorry. Heroines was kind of competing with itself for best ED this year. Like, it just had, every single one was a banger, and they also just really complemented the story with each particular arc that corresponded with that character. And I loved all 3 of them. I actually had a question about this. I was wondering, at any point on the jury, was there a discussion about including all 3 of them?
I did think there was a lot of discussion about the Makeine endings in particular, just because all of them are so strong and so unique in their own right.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there was a bit of a gap between Crazy for You and Feel My Soul over the first ending.
I was curious about that because it would have been funny to see all 3 of them just show up throughout the list. And then Anytime, Anywhere, I've been a huge fan of Millet since Vinland Saga Season 1, and I fully understand why the Freerun ED is as high as it is for the public as well.
I mean, you know, we actually had a kind of mini category last year. We presented it almost like a Spotify Wrapped for Best Song, and Anytime, Anywhere won over there as well. So it's really no surprise that it makes a repeat over here. It's so catchy.
I love her voice. Like there's no other vocalist that sounds like she does, and it really complements Freerun as well. Just tonally, story-wise, like it feels so nice at the end of every episode.
I mean, talk about complimenting Freerun too. I mean, the ending itself is this kind of like almost psychedelic kaleidoscope-esque, right? Kind of different blends of different mixed media. It really puts you in the mood.
I do have to wonder though, and I'm kind of leaning towards the public on this one. Usually I lean towards the jury, but I'm wondering, why is Oshinoko and Dandadan so low here? What happened?
I think for Dandadan in particular, it was more of like the creativity, I guess, in the concept of the ED in general, while its showing of the backstory of Turbo Granny is pretty... it's funny and it's quite entertaining. I think the repeated elements of its visuals and just sort of how it's all composed together just didn't really stack up with a lot of the other endings from this year. And for Oshinoko,
this is the big one. Oshinoko, this is one of my favorite EDs from last year as well, and I thought this one like really complemented where the story eventually goes, and also is just a really good song and visuals. So I'm wondering what the reasoning was there.
I think a lot of the jury also enjoyed the song a lot as well, especially with the guitar at the beginning. That transition is just amazing. But I think the big thing just limiting Oshinoko's ending for this one is just how a lot of its visual elements just didn't mesh well cohesively with like the whole entire concept, especially with the big blobs of color and how they sort of detracted from the stronger character art and sort of the pacing of the whole thing.
Okay.
And can you compare and contrast that against Crazy for You? Because if it has one thing going for it, it is that kind of cohesiveness, the kind of it really flows into each scene just effortlessly, in my opinion.
Yeah, Crazy for You was
พอ
a
ฟังออก
very strong ending.
บ้าง
I have to agree with you guys. This
แต่
is
คำแปลกๆก็ฟังไม่ออก
probably my favorite Edie from last year as well. Now, I'm not even biased because Lemon was my favorite character from the show, but just the Edie itself was so good.
Yeah, it does a lot. It does a lot, and it's just creating a whole new world for Lemon and how that represents her sort of like dreamscape, her sort of love for what was the guy's name? I completely forgot.
You don't watch the show for the guys. Let's be honest. I don't think anybody can tell you his name.
I think there's some like really amazing
Ni-
technical moments in the ED2. I mean, if you look at the end where like it was revealed that she's in the bath and just the kind of like underwater effect that they were able to achieve before coming out of the water and then showing her reflection.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. It's
and just when the chorus hits too, like just that transition into a much more vibrant song, like it just works so well with the visuals.
แต่มันไม่มีให้หมด
I
เลย
fully agree with you guys. Like the way it shows that ideal world that Lemon wants to live in. It's just so well done.
Yeah, and speaking of the chorus, when Lemon just starts running so happily and starts like jumping into like the little heart formation, it's just so cute and shows her character off.
Crazy for You ไม่รู้แต่ว่า
I think this
ไอ้
EP was what like
Feel My
fully
Soul
converted
cover
me. Like I was on the fence and then I was like, oh no, I think Lemon is my favorite now.
Speaking of quality, we've also are crazy for the creators of the Makaine ED because they gave us something to say.
Oh, I didn't. Man, you guys have those connections.
That's very cool.
At the end of the day, what we're really trying to
Very
do is make
cool.
sure that our appreciation is much received, and we're really lucky and happy that we are able to get that across.
Yeah.
And thank y'all for speaking to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
It is a great honor that Too Many
Ah.
Losing Heroines was able to win an award for its ending video.
มีใคร
I
อีกวะ
sincerely thank all of you who supported the show and enjoyed the video. The fact that we were able to take a different approach from the main series and attempt a more experimental form of visual expression with this was thanks to everyone involved whose flexible thinking supported the production, including A1 Pictures. We would be very happy if you were able to watch the video and experience a new side of the show. We're so proud that this video was able to transcend national borders and reach so many people. We hope you continue to enjoy the world of Too Many Losing Heroines. We received this message from Akihito Sudo, otherwise known as Kasen, and I just have to say, I think it really embodies why we have a best ED category in the first place. The fact that they are able to be more experimental and really show their creative chops. Thank you so much for the message. We hope to see more in the future.
อะไรอะ
There are any number of reasons to become invested in a series, but I find for me, it often comes down to a single character. The animation could be bad, the plot could be subpar, but it only takes one memorable character to forget all of that and bear through the moments in between their appearances. We think these 10 are plenty memorable in and of themselves. Here are your nominees for Best Character of
เห็นแล้วเลือกไม่
2024.
ยากอะอืม
アウラ、お前の前にいるのは
เบ่งพลังเลยอะ
1000年以上生きた
เฮ้ยคุมิโกะได้คุมิโกะ
お願いします。はい。
คุมิโกะคุมิโกะ
よみがえりの妙薬
ออกไม่น่าละมี
方を教えてもらう早っ動き気持ち悪い全力で行くみんな備えてだから何なんだあいつは
一生懸命なんだよ彼女は。
どうにかしてください行かれてやがるこの家あってこれ
グループの一員として動くことになるわけだ。
重要なのはチームワークなんだよね
The jury winner for best character is Nadeko Sengoku.
Oh.
The public winner for character of the year is Mao Mao from The Apothecary Diaries.
Out of every set of winners I've seen so far,
ไอ้
this
เหี้
is
ย
the
แล้วมันเลือก
most
รูป
of course the jury chose that, and of course the public chose that. Is that not wrong?
Yeah, I don't know. I was personally caught off
ดัง
guard. I thought,
ดังมาก
if
เลย
anything else, I really thought this was Kumiko's award to lose
Really?
this
What?
year.
People
มัน
go. She got greasy hair.
มันให้ที่เก้า
Everyone loves Kumiko's hair. Come on.
คนดูก็อยู่กลางๆอีกอ๋อ ไม่ปะ
I figured Frieren had a completely free pass in the public, and she did get second, but you know, I thought that was.
You thought she would win over Mao Mao?
Yes.
Mao Mao like slapped the bitch just because she wasn't behaving right.
Frieren made a bitch cut her own head off.
Well,
เมาก็อยู่สูง
it's tough.
3 กับ 1
Because I think if Mao Mao and Frieren were in the same show, they would be absolute besties. They just have the same vibe. They have like, but I don't know. I think that just in general, people have been more endeared by Mao Mao's kind of endearing, chaotic energy. You know?
Yeah.
She's just like she's a very smart character, but she's got a lot of meme power behind her as well. So everyone likes her.
It's the power of Aoi Yuki.
Yeah, just
She can do
terrific
whatever she
voice
wants.
acting.
So good.
My favorite thing about Mao Mao is just how nonchalant she is about everything. You know, her backstory is kind of revealed, and she basically gets kidnapped and brought to live in this random palace in Imperial China. But instead of like freaking out or trying to escape or whatever, she just goes like, "I guess this is my life now," and
She
it's the
is
best situation. Right?
absurdly chill about it. Just, I guess this is where I live now.
I think she really is like a really good blend of comedic moments, the conniving moments where she like goes all in about poison and herbs and whatever with the cat ears, but also there's like really nice, heartfelt, emotional moments where she can like connect with her father and deal with like protecting her friends and the people she cares about.
Yeah, it really just comes down to why Apothecary Diaries is so great in general. It's just so great with the
Kumiko.
comedic timing.
Now, on the other hand, Nadeko, I mean, any Monogatari girl is gonna be up there, right?
Yeah, and also talk about another character with really highly celebrated
ไม่ได้อะไรเลยนะเว้ย
voice. But you know, I was saying that this was Kumiko's award to lose
อย่างน้อยก็
because
กลางๆ
Yuko
นะ
just has such a strong fan base, and a lot of that is centered around
แต่ถ้า
Kumiko's
อีกชอบอีกตัวก็
development. But we also
ก็คิม
can't
เมลนะ
discount the fact that Nadeko has been around for a really, really long time at this point. She's been a character in development for 15 years and how many seasons? So I personally haven't seen this much of Monogatari. I'm only like halfway through the series, so I'd like to know what she does in this season, at least like how she develops or something, or just what made her so memorable in particular, you know, compared to everybody else.
It's the anthem. She's got the timeless anime anthem.
Oh, yeah, it might be
She
a little
has
more than
the
the
song.
Protractor, you might
แต่
not
คิมเมล
know
ก็ไม่น่าจะ
exactly
ต่ำขนาด
what
นี้นะ
the jury saw in her performance for this season, because I think this season is almost like a nice like capstone on her arc, right?
ทั้งเรื่องมันพูดถึงคิมเมลเยอะมาก
It's
เลย
really the most
มันไม่น่า
important
ต่ำขนาดนั้น
part
นะ
of it because so I was also new to Monogatari coming into this process, and of course, like it is a cast. It's a show with a very strong cast, lots of characters. When I was watching it, I thought this could be character of the year. Something a shared thought amongst the jury is that coming into this season, Nadeko was sort of seen as one of the weaker characters compared to the cast, but Nadeko draw her story arc for this season just was it really sold us on the new Nadeko. It helped recontextualize all of her old versions of herself. The premise of having her have to deal with 4 past incarnations of herself was so strong, and just
มีคนดูเพิ่มแล้ว
visually,
มี
Monogatari
คนดู
always
เพิ่ม
had such an incredible way of telling the story.
เอ
But
อ
getting to see
เพื่อน
inside Nadeko's mind, just like there's so many great shots. Even just the image that we're seeing of her for the highlight photo. She was just a
ก็แชร์ไฟใน Discord
It's so funny because when you first see Nadeko, like in the original Bakemonogatari arc, she's this kind of annoying, very sexualized character for no reason. Like one of the very first scenes is her getting like a snake shoved down her throat, and she's like writhing in like a school swimsuit. And
oh right,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
But,
now I
ปักหมด
remember
เล
that
ย
scene.
So true,
What's,
bestie.
what's so funny is that this current season, this arc that she was nominated for, almost like it pays homage and nod to that, where she has to like physically deal with her past self. And I don't know. I think it's so Monogatari to take that kind of meta element into account as well, and literally say like, hey, we know this was like, we know she used to be like this, and now she's having to deal with that. You know, I found it very creative. Now, knowing that there's so many strong characters out there, why did you nominate one that is dead for a large majority of the series?
What? Himmel? Everybody loves that.
ดี๋ยวรอดู
Hero Himmel?
Himmel the
He is
hero?
him.
What would Himmel do?
Oh.
Yes, he probably wouldn't nominate himself, but we did.
40 ปีอะ10 เท่าไหร่วะ
I had the thought at first when it was brought up for discussion that, you know, he's a character who is dead for most of the story.
15 ปี
The story starts at his funeral.
Yeah, but that's
อารมณ์เหมือนแบบโหวตลูฟี่
it's the way that he's used in the story that's so interesting, because even though he's dead, he's still able to influence Freer, and he's able to help him grow long after he's gone. It's the way they use him that I think
ก็ปิดไปแล้วไม่ใช่เหรอหรือว่าต้องปิดอีกตัวหนึ่งด้วย
Well, I think that's fair enough. That's all the time we
เออ
have.
ก็ปิดแล้ว
This is our journey's end.
Yes, there you go. So thank you for coming, and goodbye.
อ๋อฮะต่อไปก็ God of the Year เรื่องสั้น ดูอะไรวันพีซอ่ะถ้าคิดตามหลักการกรรมการอ่ะมันน่าจะไม่โหวตกันป่ะ เพราะว่ามันได้เปรียบว่าตอนมัน20 นาทีลุยเซจะได้ป่ะ ทำไมเพลงถึงเป็นช็อตมูวี่วะเอ้ยไม่ใช่ ช็อตออฟเดอะเยียร์
often feels like
Shot
a
of the
10
year.
course dinner. You know, you can have a little Chimera Ant arc here, a little Chunin exam there, and why not throw in some Cell Saga to round it out? But there are times where you'd rather just have a single perfect dish, a complete experience in
Yeah.
and of itself that results in simple satisfaction. Nothing more, nothing
โอ้
less.
ซุยเซ
Here are your nominees for Best Short of 2024.
จะมีไอ้เนี่ยเรื่องอะไร Garden of Remembrance อันนี้อะไรอ่ะ อ๋อ ฮะ เพลงเต็มเหรอเอ้ยไม่ปะเอ้ยเดี๋ยวมันใช่ OP เอ้ยมันใช่ ED ไหมหรือไม่ใช่แล้วมันคืออะไร
Your winner from both the jury and the public
โอเค
is
เรื่องเดียวกัน
One
ปะ
Piece fan letter.
โอเค
Now, I'm kind of interested in this winner because obviously One Piece. I mean, in
เพื่อซุย
the
เซที่ส
intro
อง
I just read, like I talk about how shorts are so great because they're all like this one self-contained little thing. But obviously, fan letter is like this single small piece of this like 1,000+ episode behemoth, right? As someone who like hasn't watched all of One Piece, I mean, very few people have. How did you feel about fan letter? Do you think it deserves a win here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It wasn't like technically my favorite, but it was like absolutely up there. And my best friend growing up was a diehard One Piece fan. He talked about it non-stop to me, even though I didn't really understand what he
พูด
was
ไม่หยุด
saying.
เลยเหรอ
And in terms of like what makes the series special to people, and you know like what reaches out to them from the show, I think it was actually really good in like capturing that essence in a really short time. I thought it was like, this might sound corny, but it was like about a fan letter to the Straw Hats, but also it was like a letter to the fans. You know, it was pretty nice in that respect. I really enjoyed it, and the directing was amazing.
อ๋อ
And especially, you know, the decision to
ดียังไง
tell
วะ
the story from the perspective of the supporting cast, like the people looking onto the you know the big main characters. I think that really
ได้ดูปะ
brought across the like fan element
เอ
of
อ
it, right? Like just like how these
ที่ว่า
guys
มัน
are admiring the Straw Hats, it's just like how we're admiring them, you know?
Oh, for sure. It's also great for world
มัน
building and stuff, but I haven't seen all of One Piece. I'm sure the
มั
world
นเอา
building
เรื่อง
is
ที่
extremely
แบบ
robust, other
ยิ
than
บยิบ
this
ย่อยๆมาเล่าได้
special as well. But yeah, definitely.
เล่าได้
I mean, our juror
ให้
for
เรา
this
อิน
category is
มา
Vaxi.
ก
Hi, Vaxi.
ๆเหตุผลแค่นั้นไม่น่าพอปะ
You have seen a lot of One
มัน
Piece,
ต้อง
right?
มี
Are you up to date?
I have seen all of it,
อ่ะ
yes.
พูดไม่ถูกดิมันแบบ
Do
ว่า
you think having seen
ใช่
all of it,
ซึ่ง
this like having the additional context that that's
มัน
affects
ยาว
your
อ่ะ
enjoyment
มัน
at all?
มัน
Like,
ไม่น่าสั้นปะ
how did the jury land on
มันตั้ง 20 นาทีแต่
fan letter?
มันเทียบกับอันอื่นไม่ได้อะ
So I absolutely think that watching
Oh.
One Piece and seeing the entire thing will make it more enjoyable.
แต่มันยาว
I
สุด
think
นะ
what surprised me the most was that quite a lot of the jury, which hadn't seen One Piece at all,
ได้
still
ได้ได้
really liked it and put it first or second as their most favorite. As someone who has seen it, I think it definitely adds a lot.
เห็นด้วยครับ
But I also think that not having seen it at all adds quite a different
ขอ
spin
แป๊บ
on
หนึง
it and is almost just as enjoyable in different ways. And I think that's kind of the magic of it, that it's so amazing both as a One Piece fan
มัน
and
เอา
as
เรื่องที่แบบ
someone who's
เกี่ยว
never
กับ
heard of it.
คนที่ชอบ
And that's
ไอ้พวก
I think why it
กลุ่มหมวก
got
ฟาง
so high
แล้วมันก็
rated by us.
อ่า
Do you think it works
มี
as
ผ
like
จ
an
ญภัยนิดหน่อย
introduction to the series? Like if either of
มัน
you,
ก็
do you
ตื่นเต้น
think
ดี
like after
ซึ่ง
having
มันก็
watched
ตื่นเต้น
this,
ดี
you're like, oh man, I can't wait till
แล้วมัน
maybe
ก็
you watch the One Piece when it comes out, you
เอ๊ะ
know?
ทำไมผมพูดอย่างนี้วะ
I think it
พูด
works
เหมือนไม่
as
ชอบ
like
เลย
a very good, hey, this is really good, try and watch it. I'm not sure it works as an introduction of this is what One Piece is like, because obviously fan letter is a lot better than the majority of One Piece. But it is, I think, it is a very good way of saying like, hey,
เป๊ะ
maybe you should check it out, but don't expect the rest of the series to be this.
That's kind of how I was feeling about it. I absolutely adored fan letter. I was like super pleasantly surprised. I'm not gonna be watching One Piece over it though. Like, that's a lot.
I think fan letter works because it is standalone. Like you
Yeah.
do not have to watch One Piece before or after, and it's still just as amazing.
Agreed.
Now, Rufus, you were a little surprised about the positioning of a different entry. Can you explain a little more about that?
I wasn't surprised because most people are
Okay.
bad at liking good things. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. But my favorite was Garden of Remembrance by like a country mile. To be honest, it's like it's probably one of my favorite anime ever, and it was a short that happened to air last year. It was like, I believe, what is it, ranked 6 here?
Yes.
I haven't seen it. Can you describe it a little bit
Hmm.
and
No, seventh.
explain exactly
Even
why
worse.
you like it? Seventh. Oh.
Seventh.
นั่นแหละ
Okay,
ผมอ
that's
ธิบายไม่ดี
that's cool. Okay, yeah. So basically, it's Naoko Yamada, Science Saru. It's a 17-minute long short. It's kind of like an extended music video. There's not really any dialogue or anything, but some of the songs have lyrics that sort of correspond to what's happening. And it's a very like
เออ
not
อื
to
มมัน
sound
เป็นเพลง
pretentious, but it's like a very emotionally
ไทย
intricate,
ดะ
melancholic take on the loss of a relationship and moving forward productively in life. You know, finding new love, that kind of stuff. It's like a tale as old as time, but the portrayal was just like absolutely entrancing, at least to me.
Baxi, why do you think it ends up so low here? Do you think it's a matter of like these are really strong entries and the ranking is kind of fluid, or did it have some sort of like major flaw that the jury were picking at?
I will say that one of the key aspects, at least in short, because there are 300 entries, the relative quality of the ones that the jury end up picking are extremely beloved by most of us. Which means that even being seventh is pretty good. But just to explain, there was a lot of jurors who had it really high, but a good lot of us had various issues with it. Personally, I really enjoyed the first half with the more silent slice of life elements, and didn't care much for the didn't care much for the romantic aspects and the later parts about the loss of a loved one. Whereas I think other people really liked the second half, but thought that the first half kind of meandered or dragged out a bit. And then there's also another girl that is present in the short, which I know quite a lot of the jurors didn't really see the point of. And then I think the final point is that a lot of people, including myself, really did not like the emoji use that much. Maybe a lot of people is saying too much. I didn't like the emoji use of that.
Emoji use. It's not egregious. I mean, I'm the wrong person to talk about criticizing this because I loved every single second of every single minute.
Yeah,
So-
and I do completely respect it. It's very much a kind of a personal hang-up, but yeah, I think the big issue is that even if you have a small personal hang-up with something, it really drags it down compared to the entire top 6, which I do not have any large hang-ups of. But I mean, I don't want to take away that Garden isn't good. It is really, really good.
Yeah.
I just think everything else is really, really gooder.
Oh, I totally respect that. There were a ton of really strong entries.
Yeah.
I've got a couple things to add to my playlist, and hopefully you guys out there will take a look at these too. At the very, this is what the awards are for: to discover new stuff, and all this stuff looks great. So thanks guys for hanging out with me.
Yeah, thank you too.
Anytime.
ไปไหนกว่าเหี้ยตีแบต อ้าวตีไม่โดนเดี๋ยวนะเฮียลืมไม่ได้กลัวห่างก็ไม่ได้กลัวโดนยิงเพราะบางเพลงอ่ะตอนนั้นเปิดของอะไรวะเฮียแม่งยิงคลิปกูเลย เฮ้ยมันจบแล้วไง
Camera,
action.
No, Shaw, our category isn't action this year. It's movies.
Wait, didn't we do the skit last year?
มีนกกระสา
Yeah, Shaw, but like every other good movie
เฮ้ย
franchise,
แต่มันก็ไม่น่าจะเลือกกันปะ
establishing
ไม่น่าจะเลือก
a
กันปะ
cinematic universe.
Okay.
มันก็ไม่น่าจะเลือกกันมั้ง
We've come here to come to this place for magic.
เดี๋ยวกรรมการมันมีนี่นี่ว่า
Every movie has to do about
สาว
magic.
มา
Okay, maybe the magic of cinema.
Okay. Also, I think if you keep going with that, you're gonna either drive away our audience and break their hearts, or get us hit with a copyright strike.
All right, fine. We'll keep breaking people's hearts if we don't get to the nominations.
Somehow, I think heartbreak feels good in a place like this.
God damn it. Anyway, here are the nominees for Anime Movie of the Year.
Hmm. มันโดนเกะอีกแล้วนี่หว่าเฮ้ยผีเขียวมันเอาฉากนี้มาด้วยโอ้ โตโตจัง
And the winner for movie of the year from
Ah,
the
แพ้แล้ว
jury is Mononoke, the
Oh.
Phantom in the Rain.
And the winner of anime movie of the year from the public
สวนเลย
is Look Back.
I mean, first of all, this is an upset, right? Like, who knew that the jury was not going to choose Look
มี
Back
ใครวะเนี่ย
to win? Is it not the obvious choice?
You know, it is interesting because if this was back in, gosh, like 2016, 17, when like Mononoke was really popular on our anime, I feel like it would make sense.
คนดูโต
But
โต
I
จัง
really felt like, you know how there are certain like
รวมกัน
movies in
เฉ
the
ยๆปะ
Oscars that people put like as
อ๋อ
Oscar bait,
สตาร์
almost like Academy bait. Look Back almost felt like it was
มันก็
served
น่าจะค
up
ล้ายๆไรเดอ
as
ร์ว่าที่แบบ
Oscar bait,
เรื่
jury
อง
bait,
ล่าสุด
that
แล้ว
kind
ก็
of thing,
เอา
where
ตัวเก่า
just
มา
because of its
มันปะ
themes and its messaging about being about the creative process and collaboration and the value in storytelling, it almost seemed like it was served on a platter to win here. But it's honestly really cool to see Mononoke win here as well.
Yeah, I was saying, I was telling everyone when I found out that I was very pleasantly surprised. I recently saw Mononoke, The Phantom in the Rain, like the other week, and it's just like such an absolutely stunning film. And I think in the context of the whole franchise, like in the TV series, they do kind of like arcs for like 3 episodes for each story. I think the movie format is actually so perfect for the type of stories that Mononoke tells. So I was very pleasantly surprised. I was actually expecting the look back sweep because, as Tay said, it's kind of like, I feel like it is kind of the perfect like movie that the public can enjoy, that the jury would also enjoy, and that we would all complain about it not getting nominated for an Oscar, like whatever. So I was ready to say like, oh, I have to give a shout out to Mononoke, but I underestimated the jury and they had my back ahead of time. So I'm very happy to see this here, and I hope it inspires more people to check it out. And it's pretty much a standalone film, so anyone can just load up Netflix if it's available in their area and watch it. It's like an hour and a half.
ไม่ได้ดู
Absolutely stunning, and I hope this inspires people to check it out.
ดู
And we have to stress that you do not have to go back and watch like the
ว่าอยากให้ลูกแบ็ก
last
ชนะสุด
arc
อะ
of Ayakashi.
You should.
Yeah, you don't.
You should.
No, you should. You should do
You
the whole
should.
order. I think so. Yeah, exactly. I agree with Shah.
Like, if you just want to watch the movie, you can.
Exactly. You can, and you're not losing anything, but you should watch the entire series. It's
โต
stunning.
โตจังมีคนดู
I
กี่คน
think
เนี่ย
it's really interesting
คน
to
ดูไม่
watch
โหวต
them
เลย
side by side because the movie kind of does a very different aesthetic. Like it's following the ideas of the series, but firstly, it's a lot more hectic. The cuts happen like every 1 or 2 seconds for pretty much the entire movie. Because of that's like very overwhelming. I would say it's like the color palette is also quite different from what the series is like. The series I think is a
ไม่ค่อย
more
ไม่ค่อย ไม่ค่อย
muted palette, and here it's like
Yeah.
a lot brighter pastel tones.
กรรมการลิ
Yeah,
ขิต
definitely. It was very much like, okay, made by, it's got the similar aesthetic of
Yeah,
the
it's-
original series, but definitely feels different. It has been like 15 years since the first the first series came out, I think.
Right, 07 if I want to say? Yeah.
Or was it? Oh, it was 07. I thought it was 2010.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? No. It's
Okay, I
old.
lost track of time. Okay.
You guys said you were surprised by, like, pleasantly surprised that the jury picked Mononoke, but it was actually quite close. It was like 7-6 in favor of Mononoke. So a lot of people have looked back at it as well. But yeah, there was some
For a very good reason.
Yeah, it's very good reasons. I'm one of the people who's more negative on it, but it's fine.
No, I was just gonna make a joke. It wouldn't be the jury if someone didn't have gripes with the very obvious front runner. So someone's got to do it, and I'm glad you took up the mantle.
But if you take a look at something like Look Back, which is almost kind of like an ode to animation, right? Like you have all of these really passionate directors and animators putting their absolute all into everything and saying that despite these kind of setbacks, despite tragedy, they're moving forward. I think that's kind of one of the things that really draws people to this movie.
I think for me, with Look Back, it came out at such an interesting time, and I think you can really see how affected Fujimoto was from the very tragic Kyoto Animation arson. which she brought
Mhm.
up, and he talked about how like Haruhi, the anime, like really inspired him to be a mangaka, and like you can see kind of that like inspiration, that push, and it's like almost autobiographical. Of course, the main characters, and look back, if you combine their names of
อ๋อ
Kyomoto and
เดี๋ยวนะ
you get Fujimoto. Yeah, Fujino, right? Yeah, Fujino and Kyomoto, you get Fujimoto, and it's just a really poignant love letter to creating things with someone, and even after they're gone, the things that they created, the memories you created with them still linger. And in that sense, I thought it was a very beautiful film, and especially the fact that the director did a lot of the work by himself.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like did a lot of the storyboarding,
I
did
think
a lot of the
Oshiyama did
animation.
around 60% of the movie in terms of
Yes, it's
Amazing. Yep.
insane. It's just an absolute tribute to animation, to manga, to storytelling. So I'm really glad that it did get its kudos here as the public winner.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just honestly such a perfect film experience. It's also just such a great message that exists both in the context of being a creative and an artist, but also just putting yourself out there, being willing to get hurt and living life moving forward, which I think is a message that really resonated with people across the board, because you saw it get a lot of, I don't want to say normie appeal, but it really did cross over just beyond the anime community, and a lot of people are watching Look Back and really connecting with it. So I'm very happy it exists. I'm so glad it's getting its flowers. Like, I'm very happy Mononoke got a shout, but I do think if I had to pick a film out of these top two that I prefer, it is Look Back. I think Look Back is just such a wonderful film, so I feel, you know, very happy that we all get to talk about it. So very appreciative of you all and appreciative of Look Back. Yay.
Yeah. Shaw and Tae will return in the 2025 Art Anime Awards.
Thank you to everyone who watched our work and to everyone who gave us this award. The original TV series aired in 2006 and gradually, over time, reached the rest of the world. 10 some years later, Netflix has made this transmission swift. The previous work featured particularly Japanese worldviews, but this one additionally deals with a very current theme, the fallacy of composition. I hope that themes from today's Japan will reach the wider world, which has grown closer through globalization. Chief Animation Producer Koji Yamamoto. We have been so very blessed to receive recognition from the director of Look Back, Kiyotaka Oshiyama. Thank you for choosing us to win the Art Anime Award. This is a film that uses the powerful story from the manga at its center to depict from many angles the act of people working hard and creating art. I came at this project both as a director and as an artist, and tried to embody that position together with the film. To win this award from the English-speaking community feels to me like proof that we are able to overcome differences in language and culture, and through this film, we were able to convey something more than just words. It makes me extremely happy. This film was supported by the many staff who worked on the production and was completed by the convergence of various kinds of good fortune. From the bottom of my heart, I am thankful that this hand-drawn animation was accepted so widely from all of you overseas. I'm going to continue to create works that can show off the appeal of hand-drawn art and how enjoyable animation is as a means of expression. Once again, thank you so much, Kiyotaka Oshiyama. I think I can speak for all of us when we say thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing what's to come. Well, here it is. We've had more than 3 hours of insightful conversation, surprising acknowledgements, and hilarious Kamimashita moments, all leading up to now, Anime of the Year. Both you, the public, and our jury members have decided what deserves to be remembered as the absolute best show of 2024. Is there a seemingly obvious choice? Let's refresh our memories. Here are your nominees for Best Anime of the Year.
Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
私さ 二人の邪魔をするつもりなんてなかったんだよね。このまま友達として美月
スーサイドマスターの話をわ
く
しは
จะ
してお
เลือกวะ
るんじゃろう。
โอ้ย
だから言ったでし
ขอ
ょ。
ร้องเนี่ยให้ได้ไหม
こういうまめなのがいい旦那になるんだろう。ガンガンだけどそれに比べて
ไม่น่ารอดนะ
And your jury winner for anime of the
เฮ้
year,
ยที่สองไอ้
Delicious
เหี้ย
in
เกือบแล้
Dungeon.
วไอ้เหี้ยมันเกือบ
And
แล้ว
your
อ่ะ
public winner for anime of the year, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End.
Now, Phenom, I have to
นิดเดี
say,
ยว
when
เอ
I
ง
saw these results,
อีวิ
I
เกต
went
สาม
through like a really weird, complicated,
อ๋อ
like 5 stages of grief sort of moment where at first I was like, oh no, it's not a consensus. What could it be? Oh no, it's not free run for jury.
ดัน
They're
นะ
gonna rake us over the coals.
ยี่สิบ
It's gonna be 2016 all over again, 2018 all over again. But then I saw
อ้าว
Dun
ไอ้เหี้ย
Meshi
แล้วแม่ง
and I was
เด็ด
like,
เด็ด
huh.
ที่เก้า
I mean,
แล้วไอ้
yeah,
ก่อนหน้านี้
I can see it. Yeah, that,
เดี๋ยวนะ ไอ้ก่อนหน้านี้มันที่สามไม่ใช่เหรอ
and then the more and
ที่
more I
เด็ด
thought
ไม่
about
เข้า
it, the more I was like, you know, Delicious Dungeon was quite a treat to watch. I think it's well deserving. What do you think?
Well, I was actually going to say, I
โน
feel
กาเด
like
ที่อะไรโนกาเด
Delicious in
ที่สาม
Dungeon Meshi is probably the most agreeable choice on this entire list. Even more than Frieren, even more than anything else on here. I feel like you would be hard pressed to find somebody out there who just thinks Dungeon Meshi sucks. I think everybody kind of agrees. The series is excellent.
And it's so funny because when I was first watching it, I was honestly pretty skeptical. I mean, like the first like maybe 3 or 4 episodes, I was like, this is fun, but at the end of the day, it's really just kind of like exposition about fake monster food. Like,
Yeah.
But you know, as the story goes on, as the lore kind of expands and as the stakes get higher and higher, it really draws you in. Is that your experience watching Dun Meshi?
Yeah, I would say only the first episode I was like halfway there. I wasn't fully there. And then kind of just episode 2 and beyond, it just kept building on itself in a way that it kept expanding the world, it kept building the characters and their relationships. The goal of the story is really immediate and heartfelt. I love this series. I love Dungeon Meshi so much. Props to the jury because my top 2 here, Dungeon Meshi and Sound Euphonium Season 3, are your top 2 as well, and I think you guys chose them really well this year.
What draws people to Frieren, do you think?
I think the reason why people really like Frieren is because it's able to combine kind of 2 different series together into this one seamless package. I really like the over-the-top aspect of it, the more traditional battle shonen stuff that it explores and it does really well. But I also think what really has people gravitate towards it is that in the midst of that battle shonen, you have a really touching and melancholic exploration of retrospection and time and the past. You know, anybody who's watched Frieren knows what I'm talking about. Like, it kind of just melds those 2 sides of this traditional battle shonen, really cool action, really cool spectacle, and then you have the more down-to-earth character stuff that's also handled obviously very well.
It's like you said, like the jury winner this year is the most understandable, the least contentious, right? From a disparate opinion sort of thing. But I'd like to see how the jury came to that decision behind the scenes, especially compared to Frieren.
Well, I was actually going to ask, obviously, we can talk about Sound Euphonium Season 3 as well. What kind of gave Dungeon Meshi the edge in that battle between the 2, and was it close?
I'd say that any of the shows, honestly, in the top 4, maybe 5, were like things that realistically could have been the winner, and there was a lot of ties in the top 4.
Okay.
Like, Dungeon Meshi had a couple edges, Monogatari had a couple edges, HBK had a couple edges, but there were a shocking amount of ties. Like, I really think that if the jury were one person different, we could be seeing a completely different result.
You heard it here first. Why not just put number 1 next to all that top 4 there, and everybody's happy?
Yeah.
I think that, like, unironically, I'm not a huge EBK fan, so I would not personally have EBK that high. But anything else in the top 5, I would be happy as number 1 and would be happy as number 1 in most years.
We're gonna wrap it back over to Free Ren, and I mean, come on, director Keiichiro Saito famously did Bocchi the Rock, moved on to Free Ren, and I don't know, I feel like with Free Ren, all signs of the production have pointed to just operating on full cylinders, right? So already off the bat, you've got like a irregular number of episodes. You have 28 episodes showing some like clear thought into thinking about how are we going to adapt this. We can't do this in a normal 2-core. And then, like you said, Phenom, the premise in and of itself, it's so refreshing and unique to the genre. Episode 1 is what like hooks people for a reason. It's just so striking and memorable. That just goes to show just how affected people were.
I feel a bit more qualified to talk about this because I actually made an entire video about this director, Keiichiro Saito. And I think what makes him such a good director is his ability to manage all aspects of the production in a really efficient and a really kind of like almost omnipotent way. It feels weird to say that, but like he's so good at focusing in on telling the story and doing the production in a way that a lot of other directors can't do. For example, obviously you watch Free Ren and the soundtrack is incredible. The music itself is great, but it's the way it's tied into the series that's so special. And part of the reason why it's so well tied into the series is because that's one of the things that Keiichiro Saito actually oversaw before we even started production on the series. Is he went to composer Evan Call and he started getting the soundtrack made before the production and started drafting scenes with specific tracks in mind. So when you like watch the series and you get to that first Zoltrack scene with Fern, the reason why that scene works so well with that track is because the scene was literally created for that track. Something about it just came together so well in Free Ren. I think it's obviously Saito's role in that made it work so well.
Before we leave, we've got some very special messages. Here they are. All of us staff members are very pleased to hear that we received such wonderful awards across 4 categories.
Yoshihiro.
It is thanks to Kui-sensei's amazing original work that we as a studio were able to produce such a wonderful anime. Please continue to support Delicious in Dungeon. TV anime Delicious in Dungeon director Yoshihiro Miyajima. Thank you for watching Free Ren Beyond Journey's End.
โอ้แล้วทำไม
We
นี่ยาวจัง
consider
วะ
it a great honor to win such a large number of
เขียน
awards.
ยาว
On behalf of the staff, I offer you my thanks.
ข้าดีใจที่ได้รางวัล
We were trusted with the opportunity to turn this great comic made by Kanehito Yamada sensei, Tsukasa Abe sensei, and everyone at the editorial department at Shogakukan into an anime. Those working on the anime adaptation and all the other staff members poured their hearts into the production to make a show that could reach and be enjoyed by as many people as possible. I truly now feel that that vision and the diligence of all the staff has been understood in the hearts of so many people. During the production, I watched as a vast number of staff members used their time, labor, and feelings to create this. In particular, the director, Saito, spent the most time on this show, from the time work started on the anime to the completion of the final episode. Throughout all of it, he shared his frustrations and his joy with me. I understand better than anyone how this is a show that contains the talent and energy of all the staff who worked on it, and I see it as that. Thank you for selecting the accumulation of all of our effort to win your Best Anime Award. For the Best Ending Award, congratulations to Millet-san, who oversaw the composition, and Evan Call-san, who worked on the arrangement. Congratulations also to Hoho Bun-san and Reina Muramatsu-san, who were the main producers on the visuals. All of you loved both the original series and anime of Free Ren Beyond Journey's End so much, and having the opportunity to collaborate with all of you on the series was really motivating for those of us working on the visuals. You were truly dependable people to work with. For the Soundtrack Award, congratulations to Evan Call-san and everyone else on the music team, who created the grand and lovable living world of Free Ren. You produced music like you were making the score to a film, where working in tandem with the cooperation of the editing and SFX team became a large factor.
ตอนถึงยุทธกรแปลหนักรู้ว่าไงบ้าง
Cinematography Award.
ส่วน
Congratulations
ใหญ่
to the
เป็น
director of photography Akane Fushihara
ช่วง
and the
แรก
rest of the
เราทำงาน
cinematography
กัน
You
อย่าง
took
ข
the
ยัน
scene
ขัน
design
แข็ง
that uses
ลำบาก
backgrounds,
มาก
images, and
แต่งานทุ
colors
กคน
to
เนี่ย
make up the world
ตั้ง
that
ใจ
characters
ทำมาก
live in, and delicately contrasted that with the depiction of magic.
แต่อย่างนั้น
I'm so grateful that
อันนี้
Fushihara-san
คืออะไรวะ
ครับผม
always
เก่งมาก
supported us through her sensitivity and technique. For the background
โอ้ยยังไม่
award,
จบอีกเหรอ
congratulations
โอ้
to the art director
ยังไม่จบอ่ะ
Hiko Takagi-san,
เฮ้ยสับหน้าแล้วนะ
Studio Wyatt, and
โอ้
those
โห
associated
ชิด
with
โอ้
the background team.
มากันทุกคนเลยปะ
This show required drawing a truly vast number of locations, which is something we wanted to commit to in the anime adaptation. This had to be done within the various
โอ้
constraints that
มา
come
หมด
with
เลย
anime
ซูเปอร์ไ
production.
ซูเปอร์ไว
You
เซอร์ก็
truly
มา โอ้
demonstrated the best of your ability and supported the foundation for
ยัง
the
ไม่จบ
quality
นะ
of the
ยังไม่จบนะ
visuals. Art
เจอกันสุดท้าย
Takagi-san has the ability to make a scene come together through color composition. Art supervisor Shinji Sugiyama-san's work was precise and reliable, and Seiko Yoshioka-san led the construction of the world. All of them did a brilliant and outstanding job. For the Best Animation Award, I absolutely want to first highlight Reiko Nagasawa-san, who, as a character designer and chief animation director, brought a truly great deal of strength to the show. In addition, Toru Iwazawa-san, as action director, brought up the level of quality on the show. Last but not least, I want to celebrate the animation staff, including the very many designers and each episode's animation directors and key animators. Every scene and every piece of content could only take shape thanks to the effort of a truly large number of staff members. Everyone, including the storyboarders and directing staff, put in an amount of effort that simply can't be described in words. The whole team at Madhouse Production also put in huge effort to join up the work of the staff members. It is, of course, a joyous
แสดง
occasion
ความ
for the
ขอบ
visions
คุณ
and
อย่าง
staff
สุด
that
ซึ้
won
ง
awards this time, and proof of the honestly amazing work they put in. Thanks to the hard work of Tomohiro Suzuki-san, who handled the series composition and scripts for every episode, the anime was able to sublimate the charm of the characters while respecting the original work. We see the fact that we were also selected for the Best Adventure Award as further praise for all the staff that worked on the show. We are so happy that this show, made through the work put in by all of these staff members, has received this kind of praise. We will continue to work hard to fill the hearts of even more people with joy. For that purpose, I must wish for the good health and happiness of the staff members. Thank you so much. I wish all of you good health and great happiness. Yuichiro Fukushi, Madhouse. Big congratulations to both Freeran and Dojumeshi, and of course to all of our wonderful winners we've unveiled over the
เย้
years.
ดีด้วย
It's certainly been a great year for anime, if anything. We'll always have anime. You know, it almost makes you want to break out into song. Good times and bum times, I've seen them all, and my dear, I'm still here. Plush velvet sometimes, sometimes just pretzels and beer. But I'm here. I've run the gamut, A to Z. 3 cheers and damn it, say la vie. We got through all of last year, and we're here. Lord knows at least we were there, and we're here. Look who's here. We're still here.
เฮ้ยนี่ไงคุ้น
Thank you to everyone for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
ๆนี่แต่เสียงเขาดีเลยคนนี้
ขอบคุณมากครับมา
ครับ ฮะเป็นอย่างนี้เลยอ่ะขอบคุณมากครับที่มาแค่นั้นนะ